99% of the dungeon is past. There's one thing left, the altar of the end. They thought they were beating the boss, but before they knew it, they started losing the war. And then, the world was erased. The game has started a new chapter. In reality, to survive, he teams up with a monster and became the one feared even by the gods. It's not a game anymore, no, it's a hunt. A floating fortress burns adrift in a sea of molten chaos. A winged warrior unleashes a devastating blast against an unseen foe. Knocked to the ground, she grits her teeth, clearly exhausted but far from defeated. From the smoke, a terrifying demonic silhouette begins to take shape. The demon reveals its horrifying face, its red eyes glowing with malice. It hovers above, conjuring a storm of fireballs to rain down on the warrior. She dodges the explosive barrage, her expression one of grim surprise. A mysterious figure appears, reminding her of a previous unheeded warning. Her ally, a holy warrior, reveals himself and activates a powerful golden relic. He communicates a plan to bind the demon, and she readies herself for the coordinated attack. She lunges forward, her fists crackling with arcane energy, ready to unleash a barrage of blows. But the demon stands unfazed, mocking her efforts as utterly pointless. Her rapid-fire assault connects, but the monster's defenses nullify a significant portion of the damage. With a single, contemptuous swipe, the beast sends her tumbling through the air. As she's thrown back, she screams the signal, initiating the second phase of their plan. Her ally seizes the opening, blurring past her with lightning speed to engage the demon directly. He lands a devastating blow, inflicting astronomical damage and staggering the colossal beast. Nishi Ron, a top-ranked seeker, grins with satisfaction, knowing his attack found its mark. But his confidence is short-lived as the demon retaliates with a blazing strike, moving faster than he ever anticipated. The fiery blow lands true, and Nishi can only watch in shock as his health bar plummets. The female warrior cries out in horror as Nishiron collapses from the devastating hit. But just as all hope seems lost, the very air around them begins to crack and shatter. A wave of relief washes over the battered team as they realize their ultimate backup has arrived. A legendary warrior appears, effortlessly parrying the demon's attack and saving the day. He coolly apologizes for being late, citing a minor delay in dealing with the demon's other forces. This is Kamehata Shizuya, the top-ranked commander, and he promises the demon a swift family reunion in the afterlife. Shizuya faces off against the beast, his blade already glowing with overwhelming power. Without wasting a moment, he leaps forward to eliminate the demon's lesser minions. He becomes a whirlwind of destruction, single-handedly dispatching multiple demons with ease. Nishiron shouts a crucial warning about the demon's paralyzing flames, a debuff that could spell disaster. The rest of the team looks on, with the female warrior insisting they've heard enough from Nishi. Shizuya scoffs at the warning, boasting that 3 seconds is all he needs for this fight. He unleashes a blindingly fast slash, his blade a blur of golden light aimed at the demon. The attack transforms into a colossal fiery dragon, promising to more than make up for their troubles. A massive shockwave of pure energy erupts from the point of impact, tearing through the battlefield. The demon lord can only look on in disbelief as a gaping, smoldering hole is punched through its chest. A system message declares victory, confirming their guild has defeated the boss in record time. Yet Shizuya doesn't celebrate, instead looking up as the sky above them begins to warp ominously. Nishi is floored by the instant kill, but the female warrior smirks, having expected this level of power from her commander. She then casually shatters their relief by revealing this powerful foe wasn't even the final boss. Nishi argues about his crucial role in the fight, but the commander simply watches his team bicker. Shizuya reflects that his true strength isn't just combat prowess, but a complete mastery of the game's very rules. Nishi realizes the effortless win was a calculated strategy, cementing Shizuya's status as the game's undisputed king. A sudden system notification appears before Shizuya, interrupting the post-battle calm. The screen displays a list of his world-first achievements, proving he's one of the game's most dedicated players. With every challenge seemingly met, he feels he has finally reached the end of the game. However, a final, unique achievement reveals itself, one granted only for completing all others. A server-wide alert then announces an immediate shutdown for an automatic update, catching everyone off guard. The team is left baffled by the unannounced maintenance and the promise of a mysterious new version. In the real world, a group of players wearing VR gear eagerly awaits what the game's future holds. The game signs off with a cryptic message, hoping for a future reunion. 5 days later, the scene shifts to the real world, where a bullet train speeds through the city. News outlets are abuzz with the sudden, unexplained shutdown of the massively popular online game. Shizuya, now back in reality, finds the game's abrupt end completely baffling. He clenches his fist in frustration, robbed of the chance to see the reward for his final achievement. Checking his phone, he sees his guildmates have scattered, each going their separate ways. A teammate sends a message of thanks for his help just as his train arrives at its destination. The station's digital sign warns passengers to stay clear of the next passing train. He smirks at his phone, amused by his teammates' surprise at his rare show of politeness. His focus is immediately stolen by a message from another guildmate containing a link described as a declaration of war. The link reveals a popular streamer who claims a guild named Mapo Tofu is the key to the game's mysterious shutdown. She presents a leaderboard showing their impossible 101% achievement rate, while the second-place guild barely has 34%. The streamer then directly calls out Shizuya by name, demanding an explanation for his guild's unbelievable record. A message from his teammate speculates that Shizuya's final secret achievement might have been the very trigger for the server's end. Aboard the train, Shizuya contemplates this startling theory, wondering if he truly broke the game. His thoughts are shattered by a sudden commotion, as another passenger cries out in shock and confusion. Shizuya's eyes widen, reflecting a strange, glowing blue light as the world around him begins to glitch. The train car violently disintegrates into a digital vortex, pulling everyone and everything into its swirling depths. His own body begins to pixelate and dissolve, breaking down into streams of raw data. He examines his hands, now covered in glowing blue circuits, realizing he's being rewritten by the game's code. The digital vortex consumes the train car, pulling Shizuya and the terrified passengers into its depths. A devastating slash of blue energy carves through the chaos, narrowly missing a horrified passenger. He clutches his chest in stunned silence as he realizes the game's characters have manifested. A menacing, heavily armored figure begins to take solid form within the digital chaos. The towering knight fully materializes, its sheer size dwarfing the terrified onlookers as the game invades reality. Flanked by its lieutenants, the lead knight's eyes glow with cold, digital malice. Panic consumes the passengers as they trample over each other, desperate to escape the unfolding nightmare. A desperate passenger makes a futile stand, his attack shattering against the knight's impenetrable energy. A woman is cornered by one of the knights, her plea for help lost in the escalating pandemonium. But as chaos reigns, Shizuya's shock gives way to the familiar, determined glint of a top-ranked player. The colossal knight brings its crackling blade down, delivering a devastating blow to a helpless victim. Its immense blade, crackling with raw data, looms over Shizuya, a monument to the game's lethal power. He struggles to comprehend the impossible scene, his mind racing to find an explanation. But amidst the chaos, a strange sense of familiarity washes over him as he studies the knight's stance. His gamer instincts kick in as he recognizes the attack pattern, a move he's encountered countless times before. The digital blade grinds against an invisible barrier, its momentum completely halted. The armored foe immediately transitions into a whirlwind slash, a classic combo starter from the game. A shockwave of blue energy forces him back, but his expression shows understanding, not fear. In a flash of insight, he connects the attack to the signature moves of his own guildmate, Nishi Roan. With this realization, he confidently steps onto a glowing blue panel, a game interface now manifesting in reality. The knight's attack shatters against Shizuya's defense, sending shockwaves through the digital space. Its glowing eye narrows, processing the unexpected failure of its powerful strike. Shizuya smirks with cold confidence, his theory about the game's mechanics proving correct. A system window reveals his paradoxical status, Level 1, but with a title of Omniscience and Omnipotence. The knight is baffled by the familiar technique, its own Level 35 commander stats now displayed for all to see. Shizuya instantly identifies the move as a basic skill exclusive to the commander class. A system notification confirms the attack's name, the devastating Leon Slash. The slash carves a massive fissure through the train car's wall, revealing a new path forward. He quickly deduces this opening is a hidden shortcut, leading directly to the infamous Worm Dungeon. The fissure opens up to a breathtaking alien vista, confirming their arrival at the Worm Station. The sudden teleportation forces Shizuya to a knee, the alien landscape stretching out before him. He glares at the distant knight, realizing with frustration that he is its primary target. Knowing the massive level gap makes a direct confrontation impossible, he turns and flees. With no other options, he sprints across the desolate terrain, deciding to risk it all on a desperate gamble. A chilling realization hits him. This isn't a game anymore, and a single mistake means real death. He scrambles up the side of a massive segmented wall, using the alien terrain to his advantage. Yet despite the danger, he finds himself enjoying the thrill of a high-stakes game once more. He dives behind a towering blue structure, narrowly avoiding the knight's relentless pursuit. A confident smirk spreads across his face, his glowing eyes signaling that the tables are about to turn. He declares the fight over as a massive serpentine beast erupts from the ground, ensnaring the knight in a decisive blow. As the knight falls, a flood of system notifications confirms his victory, instantly boosting him to level 8. He breathes a sigh of relief, his high-stakes gamble against the powerful foe having paid off. He recalls how terrain-based skills, though tricky, were always the perfect tool for taking down much stronger enemies. His victory celebration is cut short by a sudden thought, prompting him to check his phone for news of his guildmates. A flood of frantic messages from his guild confirms the invasion is widespread, with everyone safe but worried about him. But his brief respite ends as a new squad of shadow hunters, with levels far exceeding his own, materializes before him. Faced with another impossible level gap, his immediate priority shifts from offense to pure survival. Just as the new foes close in, a system notification alerts him to a dropped item from his previous battle. He watches in astonishment as the loot materializes into the very same formidable weapon wielded by the knight he just defeated. The colossal blade crackles with digital energy, a legendary weapon now his for the taking. A system window details the sword's incredible stats, revealing it's a unique weapon that allows for a job change to the commander class. He stares in disbelief at the weapon's ridiculously overpowered stats, far beyond what should be possible. As his hand glitches with digital energy, he wonders how he could have possibly obtained such a game-breaking treasure this early on. A system prompt offers to fuse him with the weapon, but warns that its original owner can track him for 7 days. He immediately recognizes the tracking skill as a player-exclusive ability, confused as to why a monster would possess it. His thoughts are cut short as a level 25 King Shadow Archer materializes, already aiming its energy-charged bow. The archer unleashes a devastating shot, sending a massive shockwave of power hurtling straight for him. With no time to hesitate, he makes his choice, accepting the fusion and its dangerous consequences. Deciding that survival is his only priority, he grabs the hilt of the colossal blade, fusing his very being with its power. The fusion triggers a cascade of system alerts, unlocking the commander class, new skills, and activating his ultimate trait. He's stunned to find his ultimate trait has unlocked the entire commander skill tree. He immediately selects a support skill, Brave Flag, channeling its energy through his body. Activating the skill, he's instantly enveloped in an aura that boosts his speed, defense, and health. With his pursuers closing in, he quickly selects another skill, knowing it's his only way out. He recalls that Leon's Slash isn't just for attacking, it has a hidden utility. Its true value is its mobility, allowing for a rapid, mid-air triple jump. He chains the skill, using the successive slashes to propel himself up the massive staircase with impossible speed. The relentless shadow hunters give chase, struggling to match his newfound agility. Taking cover, he cautiously checks to see if he's finally managed to lose his pursuers. Breathing a sigh of relief, he credits the overpowered weapon and its skills for his narrow escape. He analyzes the weapon's stats, realizing they're far more powerful than they ever were in the game. But his primary concern remains the hate stalk skill, which will keep him marked for a full week. His immediate priority becomes escaping the dungeon before more powerful foes are drawn to his location. He emerges to find the station now swarming with an army of shadowy monsters. Peeking from behind cover, he's stunned by the sheer, unbelievable number of enemies ahead. His attention is drawn to a monster activating what appears to be a player-exclusive respawn point. He struggles to understand how these monsters can use game mechanics like respawn points and tracking skills. A horrifying realization dawns on him. The roles have been flipped and humans are now the monsters being hunted. He understands that this terrifying new world is the updated version of the game Azure Land. This means for the next 7 days, he'll be relentlessly pursued by these infinitely respawning players. He realizes the night a player will stop at nothing to retrieve its stolen weapon from him, the monster. Refusing to be a sitting duck, he puts his unparalleled game knowledge to the ultimate test. His challenge is to outwit an immortal player and its minions, a foe that can never truly be defeated. Unlike his pursuers, he only has one life, making his desperate sprint through the station a true do-or-die situation. His game knowledge leads him down into the station's depths, certain it's the entrance to the worm dungeon. Just as he predicted, he finds the grotesque entrance to the C-rank dungeon known as Farov's Heart. He remembers a crucial exploit involving the dungeon's worms, a hidden mechanic that allows players to skip the boss fight. This gives him a brilliant idea. He can use the dungeon to grind levels and grow stronger while avoiding the player hunting him. But his plan relies on a dangerous assumption, knowing that if the exploit is gone, he'll be forced into a boss fight he can't win. He stands at the precipice, fully aware that facing the dungeon boss alone at his current level is a suicide mission. His momentary relief shatters as he sees the knight has already respawned, now with reinforcements. With no time to waste, he commits to his plan and sprints towards the dungeon entrance. He takes a leap of faith, plunging into the grotesque, fleshy chasm of the worm dungeon. Landing on the cavern wall, his first priority is to create as much distance as possible from his pursuers. He races towards a specific cave deep inside, his entire strategy hinging on reaching it in time. Frantically, he scans the pulsating walls, searching for the hidden trigger for the dungeon exploit. A wave of dread washes over him as he realizes the exploit's location has changed, throwing his plan into chaos. His delay proves costly as a swarm of monstrous worms bursts from the walls, threatening to overwhelm him. Just as the worms close in, he spots a section of broken terrain, the hidden entrance he was looking for. A system notification appears, confirming the skill he needs to activate, the versatile Leon Slash. He unleashes a devastating slash, blasting the swarming worms away from his objective. He peers into the chasm he created, relieved to have narrowly avoided being overwhelmed. His gaze then falls upon the true reason he risked coming here, the dungeon's greatest secret. He's found it. The legendary Tears of Farov, a shimmering pool that holds the dungeon's greatest exploit. He dips his hand into the pool, initiating the trial of Farov and beginning a risky, uninterruptible power-up. He smirks confidently, recalling the exact mechanics of this exploit, a perfect way to grind stats while his enemies search for him. He immerses himself in the pool's energy, patiently accumulating a massive number of status points over time. Meanwhile, the chaos continues elsewhere as another passenger from the train desperately fights for survival. But his peaceful grinding is suddenly interrupted by an unexpected and alarming sensation. He realizes he's sensing the despair of other survivors as they fall one by one to the overwhelming invasion. He grits his teeth, realizing the mental debuffs are far more potent in reality than they ever were in the game. Amidst the mental assault, he hears familiar voices calling his name, a faint echo from his past. The voices belong to his guildmates, their friendly faces appearing as a comforting memory. But the vision twists into a nightmare, their smiling faces replaced by monstrous visages that mock him for his delay. He lets out a silent scream of agony as the horrifying illusion shatters his composure. Back in the pool, he struggles to his knees, realizing the mental attacks are growing stronger with each passing moment. Determined not to break, he slams his fist into the water, forcing himself to stay calm and fight back. His resolve is rewarded as a single glowing drop of concentrated energy rises from the pool's surface. Clenching his fist, he calculates that 2 days have passed in his trial, steeling himself for the final stretch. In a shocking move to break the illusion, he drives his own hand into his chest, a pained but triumphant grin on his face. His moment of triumph is cut short by a sudden, horrifying realization. The illusion shows him utterly defeated, with the relentless night looming over him. His mind is flooded with a single desperate question: is this how it all ends? He's forced to confront the impossible odds of a mortal human fighting an immortal player. All his confidence shatters, replaced by the grim acceptance that his struggle was just wishful thinking. A voice in his head tells him to surrender, to accept the inevitable. The temptation to give in is overwhelming, promising an end to all his suffering. But in the depths of his despair, his true nature as the game's top player roars back to life. He reasons that his low level is no excuse, and the only real disadvantage is his single life. With renewed resolve, he decides that if he can't revive, he simply won't die. He roars with defiance, shattering the mental illusion with sheer, unyielding willpower. A system notification confirms he has overcome the trial, earning the recognition of the dungeon's entity. He returns to reality, dazed and exhausted, with a small, harmless worm now resting on his head. Clutching his chest, he realizes the horrifying vision of his defeat was nothing more than a powerful illusion. The physical toll of the 3-day ordeal hits him, and he decides it's finally time to leave the dungeon. Pushing through the exhaustion, he struggles to his feet, ready to face the outside world again. He confidently approaches a tunnel teeming with worms, certain they will no longer see him as a threat. The lesser worms part before him, but a pair of glowing red eyes from the darkness signals a greater danger ahead. His confidence evaporates as he looks up in horror at the source of the menacing presence. The massive dungeon boss, a colossal worm, erupts from the ground, revealing his trial was far from over. The colossal worm boss presents him with a strange, smooth object from its maw. The beast spits out a smaller worm, identified by the system as a valuable worm essence. With a final echoing roar, the dungeon boss confirms its offering before retreating into the depths. He realizes this is a peace offering, a sign that the dungeon's inhabitants now see him as an ally. Emerging from the dungeon, he observes that only the lower-level players remain, as the stronger ones have moved on. Now equivalent to level 25, he knows he has a window of opportunity to fight before his high-level pursuers return. He unleashes a powerful ground-shattering strike, taking the initiative against the remaining foes. He chains his skills together, combining Stun Rush and Leon Slash into a fluid, deadly combo. Surrounded by crackling energy, he closes the distance in a blur of motion, ready to land another blow. But a shadow archer retaliates from below, launching a chase arrow to intercept his aerial assault. His Brave Flag skill kicks in, granting him the burst of speed needed to evade the homing arrow. The powerful arrow narrowly misses him, striking a fire extinguisher with explosive force. The resulting explosion engulfs the area, creating a temporary smokescreen. He glances back at the chaos, knowing he has to get out of the station immediately. He seizes the opportunity, planning to escape while the archer's vision is obscured by the blast. Channeling his energy, he bolts from his position, determined to escape. But his escape is cut short as the archer lands a glancing blow, wounding his arm. He slams against the wall from the impact, clutching his bleeding shoulder in pain. Annoyed at his own mistake, his attention is drawn to the massive armored figure now standing over him. The knight holds up a glowing crystal, which Shizuya instantly recognizes as a player-used portal stone. He realizes the knight brought reinforcements, explaining how they tracked him down so quickly. Wounded and cornered, he knows there's no way to dodge the imminent attack. But just in time, a monstrous worm erupts from the ground, engulfing the shadow monsters in its path. From the chasm it created, an entire swarm of lesser worms begins to pour out. The horde of worms surges forward, a writhing tide of flesh ready to overwhelm the station. He breathes a sigh of relief, realizing his unlikely allies from the dungeon have just saved his life. He touches his chest, noting he still has plenty of the worm essence he received from the dungeon boss. His attention then shifts to the dropped item, identifying it as the player's portal stone. A brilliant high-risk plan flashes through his mind as he stares at the stone. He commands his new worm army to swallow the portal stone and scatter at high speed. He realizes the worm's sheer size makes it impossible for the players to simply run away. The worm army surges forward at incredible speed, overwhelming the shadow players in a chaotic blitz. To his surprise, he gains a massive amount of experience from his worm army's kills, jumping 9 levels instantly. He laments that while the players dropped high-level gear, it was all destroyed in the worm's rampage. Knowing his enemies will soon respawn, he flees the station, determined to find a permanent solution to their immortality. He emerges into a city under siege, where drones broadcast evacuation orders as citizens flee from the invading game monsters. While drones plead for calm, desperation has taken hold, with some survivors resorting to looting amidst the chaos. In stark contrast to the panic, a blue-haired girl with headphones seems completely unfazed, humming a tune to herself. The scene cuts to a convenience store, where a man calls out to the same girl as she casually heads down an aisle. Ignoring the urgency, the man simply reaches into a cooler to grab a container of mint gum. The girl announces her intention to pay, completely oblivious to the chaos erupting just outside the store. Finding no clerk, she casually decides to use the self-checkout, still unfazed by the apocalyptic scene. Stepping outside, her only complaint is the terrible phone signal, ignoring the monsters roaming the streets. She's irritated that the poor connection limits her to her downloaded music, surrounded by fallen survivors and looming monsters. Her moment of musical frustration is broken as a stranger suddenly grabs her arm, causing her to drop her things. The hooded man presses her against a wall, silencing her just as she's about to protest. A monstrous bladed leg smashes into the ground just inches from where they're hiding. A towering insectoid monster appears, and the girl casually apologizes for being too absorbed in her phone to notice it. A system window identifies the creature as a level 25 shadow assassin, a formidable threat. Realizing they've been spotted, the man grabs the girl and they make a desperate dash down an alley to escape. The hooded stranger shoves the girl aside, expertly parrying the assassin's surprise attack. He urgently pushes her to safety, his glowing eyes fixed on the monstrous foe. The blue-haired girl looks back in shock, startled by her sudden rescue. He clashes with the shadow assassin, his weapon grinding against its razor-sharp limbs. A system window reveals his new title, Heart of Farov, as he stares down the monster. Shizuya counters with a powerful golden slash, knocking the assassin off balance. The assassin immediately prepares a counterattack, gathering blue energy for a devastating blast. His gamer instincts kick in, identifying the move as a basic assassin skill used during a retreat. Knowing the terrain gives the assassin an advantage, he decides a strategic retreat is their only option. He shatters a nearby window, creating an escape route for himself and the girl. The girl casually snaps a photo of the destruction, more interested in her phone than the monster lurking above. Shizuya stares in disbelief at the girl, who remains strangely calm amidst the surrounding chaos. He grabs her hand, pulling her to safety while she complains about leaving her shopping behind. She scolds him for his panic, confidently stating that the monsters pose no threat to them. Her bizarre confidence leaves him utterly speechless, while she playfully dismisses his concern. Her focus then shifts to his hand, where glowing blue circuits reveal his connection to the game. He looks at his glitching hand, vaguely explaining that he's been through an ordeal. He reveals that by taking the weapons of his fallen enemies, he absorbed their power. With glowing digital marks on his face, he resolves to end the current confrontation. The scene pulls back to reveal a vast, burning cityscape, showing the true scale of the invasion. He calls out to the girl as she walks past a sign pointing towards the Hound Village ruins. She questions his familiarity with Rinkai City, noting he seems to know more than she does. He pulls out a map, explaining his knowledge isn't of the city itself. His expertise, he reveals, is with the beginner area Hound Village from the game Azure Land. He realizes with a jolt that the real-world city is a perfect one-to-one replica of the game's map. She asks why he came to this desolate place, prompting him to question why she's following him. Annoyed by his impersonal tone, she stomps her foot in frustration. She gets in his face, introducing herself as Kokone Ichijo and demanding he use her name. Kokone cheerfully admits she's tagging along just for fun, leaving him baffled by her lack of self-preservation. Ignoring her carefree attitude, he steps onto a glowing blue sigil, activating a hidden game mechanic on the ground. The sigil opens a hidden passage, revealing a dark chasm below them. A system window confirms they've found a hidden cave, a secret area from the game. Kokone recognizes the place as an old air raid shelter from their childhood. Shizuya quickly silences her, sensing they're not alone in the darkness. They peer deeper into the cavern, drawn by the distinct flashes of a firefight. The source of the light is a pair of survivors desperately battling unseen foes. Two armed individuals are revealed, struggling to hold back an overwhelming force. Their opponents are identified as a level 20 Shadow Magician and a level 23 Shadow Soldier. A system window reveals a level 18 Shadow Cleric is also part of the enemy squad. Shizuya's eyes glow as he assesses the situation, deeming these foes weak and inexperienced. Confident they can win this fight, he charges into the fray with his hand crackling with energy. Kokone watches in alarm, calling out his name as he rushes headlong into battle. He leaps over the survivors' gunfire, who are stunned to see another human arrive. The Shadow Cleric looks up in shock as Shizuya descends from above for a decisive strike. Following classic strategy, he lands a devastating blow, instantly neutralizing the enemy healer. His plan is simple. With the healer gone, the tank will charge in recklessly. He easily dodges the soldier's clumsy attack, finding his opponents far too slow. The two survivors provide covering fire, allowing him to press his advantage. The coordinated assault throws the remaining shadow monsters into disarray. In response, the shadow soldier slams its fist into the ground, erecting a massive wall of ice. The ice wall shatters, leaving the two survivors firing into an empty cave. Confused by the sudden disappearance, they wonder where their enemies have gone. Shizuya calmly informs them that the monsters have retreated, advising them to conserve their ammo. But his glowing hand makes the female survivor suspicious, and she points her gun at him, demanding answers. Kokone quickly intervenes, vouching for Shizuya and confirming he's human. She explains how he saved her life back in the city, surprising the other survivors. Convinced, the female survivor lowers her weapon and suggests they move to a safer location to talk. They enter a larger cavern where other survivors have gathered, one of whom recognizes the male survivor as a former instructor. Kokone excitedly reveals she also trained at the same academy, creating an unexpected connection. The female survivor explains their group was on a mission when they were cut off and forced to take refuge in the shelter. The female survivor reveals they rescued hundreds of citizens, but their group has been tragically whittled down. Shizuya listens grimly, acknowledging that protecting even this many people is a monumental feat in this chaos. She asks if the monsters will ever leave them be, but he confirms a grim theory he's been forming. He explains this cave is a mandatory dungeon from the game, and the two survivors are its final bosses. A system window identifies the true bosses as the level 15 twin demons, one wielding a cannon and the other a crossbow. The male survivor recalls the male demon's slow but powerful area of effect attacks. The female survivor remembers the female demon's fast, precise strikes that lacked overwhelming power. A sudden sharp pain strikes Shizuya, causing Kokone to rush to his side in concern. He brushes off her worry, a look of grim understanding dawning on his face as all the pieces click into place. He finally grasps the horrifying truth. The game has merged with reality, turning the human world into a den of monsters. He understands that these armored figures are the players who have invaded his world. He grapples with the twisted reality where hunting humans is framed as an act of justice. Their simple tripwire alarm, made of cans and string, lies in wait at the cave's entrance. A heavy armored foot steps down, triggering their makeshift warning system. The survivors realize with alarm that the enemy has returned, stronger and in greater numbers. The female survivor, Shion, moves to investigate, but her partner tries to stop her from going alone. The male survivor takes command, ushering the terrified civilians deeper into the shelter for safety. Kokone peeks around the corner, her expression turning serious as she silently counts the approaching threats. A formidable squad of 5 elite shadow monsters materializes, their presence far more menacing than the last group. Shizuya stands with the two survivors, instructing Shion to lead the civilians to safety while they face the enemy. System windows identify the new threats, including a high-level King Shadow Archer preparing a light-based attack. He recognizes the lamp arrow skill, realizing these players came equipped to illuminate the dark cave. He shouts a quick plan to the survivors, telling them to provide cover as he charges the enemy's backline. As he sprints forward, the Shadow Magician unleashes a volley of fireballs to intercept him. But the Shadow Soldier tanks the fiery barrage, protecting its allies with its immense bulk. Shizuya dodges the archer's explosive arrow, creating afterimages as he weaves through the chaos. The Shadow Warrior anticipates his approach, bracing itself in a solid defensive stance. He vaults over the tank, using its own body as a platform to launch himself toward the vulnerable archer. The two survivors lay down a hail of bullets, providing the distraction he needs. With a devastating aerial strike, he shatters the King Shadow Archer, taking out their key damage dealer. He dismisses them as beginners using basic skills and moves in for a quick finish. But the King Shadow Archer proves him wrong, charging up an advanced, technical shot. Shizuya pivots just in time, narrowly evading the high-speed projectile. He's stunned that a low-level player could execute such a complex maneuver. His attention snaps to the Shadow Magician, realizing the archer isn't the only experienced foe. The magician unleashes a massive fiery explosion, targeting the survivors. The male survivor recoils from the blast, his partner calling out in alarm. Shizuya notes with concern that the player's combat abilities are rapidly improving. He retaliates instantly, slicing through the level 20 Shadow Magician with a decisive blow. He has a horrifying epiphany. The shadow monsters are gaining proficiency by using the skills of the players they've defeated. The Shadow Magician he just defeated respawns instantly, its core glowing with renewed energy. He watches in frustration as a Shadow Cleric heals any damage dealt, perfectly protected by the other monsters. The archer pins him down with a relentless barrage of precise shots, preventing any advance. He realizes with annoyance that their coordinated attacks make it impossible to reach the backline. Seeing their dire situation, the male survivor prepares to use a block of C4 as a last resort. But Shizuya's charge is abruptly halted as the Shadow Soldier slams its massive shield into the ground. He throws a desperate punch, but his attack is completely nullified by the impenetrable shield. The sheer force of the block sends him flying, slamming him hard against the cavern wall. Dazed and disoriented, he struggles to recover from the powerful impact. Staring at his own bleeding hand, he grimly considers the ruthless sacrifices he'd make in the game to secure a victory. He hesitates, realizing that unlike in a game, he can't sacrifice living, breathing people for victory. His gaze falls on the terrified civilians, huddled in fear, a stark reminder of what's at stake. Among them, a small, frightened girl is offered a lollipop by an unseen hand. Kokone smiles warmly, trying to bring a moment of comfort to the child amidst the horror. She gently asks the girl about her parents, showing a kindness that defies their grim situation. The child's face twists in trauma, recalling the moment her parents left her before disappearing. Back in the fight, the male survivor shouts a desperate plan to retreat using explosives. His partner agrees, convinced that a tactical retreat is their only hope for surviving a few more days. But Shizuya refuses to run, activating his brave flag skill and charging back into the fray. A system window confirms his skill has buffed the entire party, increasing their speed and health for the coming battle. With glowing eyes, he apologizes for the brutal sacrifice he was forced to make. Kokone looks on as a beam of light descends, her thoughts on the two survivors she'd just befriended. He reveals his plan wasn't to attack, but to redirect the enemy archer's powerful shot. The little girl watches in tears as the redirected beam heads straight for the male survivor. The shot strikes Takuto, revealing a secret he had previously shared with the child. Shizuya admits he used the archer's technical shot to defeat the players by sacrificing his allies. He grimly accepts that he had no other choice but to sacrifice them to secure victory. The truth is revealed. The two survivors are linked to the dungeon's twin demon bosses through the chain system. This game mechanic binds their fates, and as the chain shatters, so does their shared life force. Shion screams her partner's name, realizing that with one of the chained bosses killed, the other perishes as well. Shion desperately tries to rouse her fallen partner, refusing to accept his fate. Shizuya coldly urges her to retreat, insisting there's no time for grief. Her hand tightens on her rifle, her sorrow hardening into a new resolve. She rises to her feet, her body trembling with a mixture of grief and rage. Overwhelmed by despair, she collapses to the ground in a moment of utter defeat. But her grief quickly turns to fury as she grabs a heavy bag, her knuckles white. With a furious spin, she hurls the bag's contents towards the enemy lines. The bag bursts open, revealing a payload of explosives she had prepared. The shadow players are caught completely off guard as the explosives rain down on them. Consumed by rage, she unleashes a final, desperate barrage, determined to take them all with her. A chain of massive explosions rips through the cavern, consuming the shadow players in a fiery inferno. Caught in the blast, she stumbles back, her expression a mix of horror and grim satisfaction. With her last ounce of strength gone, she sinks to the ground, her body surrendering to grief and exhaustion. She bitterly recalls her ambition, lamenting how her partner's stubbornness held back her career. Her thoughts drift to his selfless nature, remembering he chose to protect civilians over his own safety. Overcome with grief, she screams at the memory of his selfless, foolish heroism. With her rage and sorrow spent, she finally collapses, her body limp on the cavern floor. Shizuya observes the aftermath, his glowing eyes reflecting a cold, calculating assessment of the situation. The smoke and dust finally get to him, but a single tear reveals the emotional toll of his ruthless decision. In a shocking twist, the fallen survivor jolts awake, clutching his chest and wondering what just happened. He confirms his calculated risk paid off, as the brave flag skill's buffs prevented a fatal blow. The survivors are left stunned by the sudden victory, questioning how the enemies were defeated so easily. Overcome with a mix of relief and fury, Shion lands a solid punch on her partner's chest. The impact dislodges a small object from his gear, which clatters unnoticed onto the cavern floor. He reaches down to retrieve the mysterious item, his hand meeting Shion's as she does the same. The object is revealed to be a brilliant, sparkling ring, clearly meant for a special occasion. He sheepishly admits he intended to give it to her later, realizing the ring ironically helped save his life. Overwhelmed by the revelation, she closes the distance and pulls him into a tight embrace. With tears of joy streaming down her face, she confesses she's been waiting for this moment all along. Shizuya watches the emotional reunion, a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips. Kokone checks on Shizuya, who muses on the unexpected love story between the game's twin demon bosses. The survivors realize they can exploit the game's mechanics, finding a glimmer of hope in their dire situation. Filled with newfound confidence, Shizuya believes they now have a real chance to win this fight. But his hope is instantly crushed as his eyes widen in sheer disbelief and terror. An enormous shadow monster materializes before them, signaling the return of their enemies in a more terrifying form. One of the civilians erupts in anger, refusing to entertain the idea of leaving the shelter. He argues that venturing outside into the monster-infested city is a death sentence. The other survivors join the protest, their fear overriding any logic as they refuse to leave. Shion tries to reason with the panicked crowd, warning them that staying put is no longer an option. Shizuya turns to the group, ominously hinting that their compromised location is only the beginning of their problems. Shizuya warns the group that the shadow players they just defeated will inevitably revive. He adds a chilling detail: they will return even stronger than before. The angry survivor loses hope, screaming that resistance is futile against an immortal enemy. He turns on Shizuya, questioning his trustworthiness due to his strange glowing hand. Shion defends Shizuya, appalled that the man would accuse their savior. Kokone loses her patience, telling the man he can stay and perish if he's too scared to act. The male survivor claps his hands together, silencing the argument with a sharp sound. He offers a choice, while Shion reveals their last order was to evacuate to the airport. The civilians exchange nervous glances, torn between the fear of leaving and the danger of staying. One of the survivors nervously tugs on the instructor's sleeve, their indecision clear. The little girl's simple trust in her rescuers is the first to break the deadlock. Her bravery seems to affect the angry man, who looks over the group with a conflicted expression. Inspired by her courage, another survivor asks if the airport is truly a safe destination. The tide turns as the survivors finally agree to move, with even the most vocal dissenter now on board. The stubborn survivor finally relents, his expression showing he's not happy about it. The argument finally over, the man walks off, earning a dismissive scoff from Kokone. Seizing the moment, Shion takes command, ordering a rapid evacuation to the airport before dawn. As their footsteps echo through the cave, Kokone quietly calls out to Shizuya. Shion approaches, directly asking Shizuya how he knew the shadow players would revive. Kokone voices her own suspicion, noting his expertise seems out of place for such a new catastrophe. Shizuya lays out the two absolute strengths of game characters in the real world, the first being their constant potential for growth, but the second, more troublesome advantage is their ability to revive infinitely, allowing them to try again and again. For them, it doesn't matter how many times they fail. A single victory is all it takes to clear a dungeon. He concludes that as long as this system exists, the boss faction has no chance, which makes Shion question his calm demeanor. Shizuya deflects, casually asking if they aren't calm too, catching the soldier off guard. The male survivor explains they're trained soldiers, but even he admits that their training has its limits. His trembling hand betrays his words as he admits they were never trained for monsters and are at their breaking point. Shizuya then questions why they're pushing themselves so hard when they're on the verge of collapse. He bluntly tells them they must know it's impossible to protect every single person in their group. He finishes his grim assessment, suggesting their own survival chances would be higher if they abandoned the civilians. The male survivor calmly accepts Shizuya's brutal logic, admitting he's right. Their attention is drawn to a strange, monstrous crest mounted high on the cavern wall. He reveals that a national emblem once hung in that spot, now replaced by this sinister symbol. The soldier recalls saluting the old flag, a duty he performed without fully grasping its significance. Shizuya interrupts his solemn reflection, telling him such sacrifices aren't necessary, but the soldier entrusts him with a final duty, to protect Kokone and escape if the worst happens. The focus shifts to Kokone, as they wonder about her plans in this broken world. He hints at her difficult family life, revealing Shion feels a deep responsibility for her. A flashback reveals Shion's secret sorrow. A past injury left her unable to have children of her own. Though she never speaks of it, the pain of that loss is a constant, unspoken burden she carries. The soldier finally understands that Shion's hidden pain was why she always rejected him. Their conversation is violently interrupted by a high-speed energy blast. He reacts instantly, shoving Kokone out of the way as he shouts a desperate warning. A thin line of blood on his cheek shows just how narrowly he avoided the deadly attack. The two soldiers can only stare in horror, their brief respite shattered by the surprise assault. The remaining civilians recoil in fear, their faces pale with terror. Just as he predicted, Shizuya confirms the shadow players have returned for another round. But his gaze locks onto something unexpected, his focus shifting to a new horrifying target. To everyone's horror, the laser beam strikes the little girl, who looks down in stunned silence. As she collapses, she utters a final name, her gaze fixed on the memory of someone she called sister. The group watches in horror as the little girl falls to the cavern floor, a victim of the surprise attack. Kokone screams the child's name, her face contorted with grief and disbelief. The attack is revealed to be a high-speed energy bolt fired from the darkness. Cheyenne screams a warning, her pistol aimed as she prepares to retaliate against the unseen foe. The survivors scatter, desperately trying to find cover from the renewed assault. Shizuya realizes the archer's shot was too skilled to be an accident. It hit its mark with terrifying precision. He understands with dawning horror that the player's true target was never the fighters, but the innocent child. Fueled by pure rage, Kokone unleashes a brilliant chain of light from her hand, a powerful new ability. Her devastating attack slams directly into the King Shadow Archer, catching it completely by surprise. The archer collapses as the soldiers try to maintain order, one screaming in fury while the other urges calm. The male survivor struggles to hold back a furious Cheyenne, who is desperate to avenge the fallen child. Shizuya screams in panic, trying to stop Kokone from rushing headlong out of the cave. They both skid to a halt, staring up in terror at a colossal stone figure blocking their exit. A terrible realization dawns on Shizuya as he remembers a crucial detail from the game he'd forgotten. A system window identifies the new threat as a level 40 sea golem, a unit designed to prevent NPCs from escaping dungeons. He recalls an old game exploit where players used the golem's flawed AI to trap and hunt bosses. Now, that same exploit has been turned against them, sealing them inside the cave with their enemies. The lead shadow player gestures with a hand crackling with dark energy, seemingly giving an order. The golem's leg shatters, not from an attack, but as if being deliberately dismantled. Kokone points in horror as the shadow leader absorbs the essence of the fallen archer, growing even stronger. A system window confirms the King Shadow Archer has earned the title Conqueror of Hidden Cave. Shizuya grimly realizes the players are being rewarded, as the shadow leader questions if they are just nameless monsters. He erupts in fury, realizing their entire existence, their rage, their bonds, is just pre-programmed content for a game. In a flash of light, the very fabric of the game's system seems to shatter around him. He is presented with a choice. Activate a godlike power that will cause powerful players to hunt him for 7 days. Kokone watches with wide-eyed terror, silently pleading with him not to go through with such a reckless plan. Ignoring the risk, he activates the unique trait, immediately gaining a wizard's fireball skill as 4 players begin their pursuit. He continues to absorb power, acquiring a guardian's defensive stance and a cleric's holy blessing. The system confirms he's also obtained the archer's rare lamp arrow skill from the loot. The shadow leader looks on intrigued, musing that sometimes errors can occur in the game's system. With a look of grim acceptance, Shizuya unleashes his newfound power, deciding he has no other choice. He immediately tests his new wizard skill, blasting the shadow leader with a massive fireball. A new system trait activates, allowing him to chain attacks from different classes together. He follows up instantly with a powerful charged strike, exploiting the new cooperative attack trait. The devastating combo impales the shadow leader, shattering its form with raw energy. He coldly watches the monster disintegrate, questioning if it could ever comprehend the pain it caused. The system rewards him with the archer's rare loot, granting him the powerful technical shot skill. He then absorbs the power of the twin demon boss, acquiring Cheyenne's rapid mana skill. The system continues, granting him Takuto's sweep mana skill as he floats, surrounded by absorbed power. The terrified civilians recoil from his overwhelming aura, screaming and trying to flee from their own savior. Radiating a powerful blue aura, Shizuya stands defiantly before the colossal sea golem blocking their escape. He reflects on the sacrifices of Cheyenne and Takuto, their hopes now resting in his hands. Clenching his fist, he channels his new power as a dark star-like emblem manifests on his skin. As the golem prepares a devastating blow, he accepts the mission entrusted to him by the soldiers. With glowing eyes and unwavering resolve, he steels himself to carry on their fight. A system window details the level 40 sea golem's immense strength and its resistance to most attacks. He knows a direct confrontation is irrational, but he's determined to buy time for the others. With blinding speed, he dodges the golem's crushing stomp, leaving a blue afterimage in his wake. He retaliates with a powerful energy blast, striking the golem's chest in a fiery explosion. Unleashing Cheyenne's rapid mana skill, he realizes his newfound power might be enough to defeat the colossal guardian. He unleashes a volley of explosive mana shots, hammering the golem's stone hide. Shizuya braces himself, meeting the golem's colossal fist with a supercharged punch of his own. The golem's eye flares with a menacing red light as it prepares a powerful countermeasure. His eyes widen as he senses an overwhelming surge of energy from the stone guardian. A system window announces X-Rush as the golem fires a devastating crimson energy beam. He dives for cover, the beam scorching the ground where he stood just a moment before. The relentless laser attack carves a destructive path through the cavern floor, chasing him down. Switching tactics, he summons a crystalline shield, activating the Guardian's defensive stance skill. He meets the energy beam head-on, his new shield erupting in a brilliant flash of light upon impact. The sheer force of the blast sends him hurtling backward, tumbling uncontrollably across the cavern floor. Kokone screams his name as she leads the other survivors in their escape. He realizes with dread that the evacuation is taking far too long for him to hold the line. The golem raises its fist for a final crushing blow as Shizuya accepts his fate. Suddenly, a figure rushes forward, shouting a desperate warning. Kokone shoves the angry survivor aside, putting herself directly in harm's way. The golem's massive fist descends, now aimed directly at Kokone and the man she saved. Its colossal hand smashes into the ground with devastating force. Shizuya looks on in disbelief, stunned by the unexpected turn of events. The golem turns its head, its glowing red eyes locking onto a new target. He watches in horror as the monster's attention shifts away from him and toward the fleeing survivors. He remembers a key detail. The golem's programming is to protect players, not just trap NPCs. The golem's targeting system reveals its aggro has shifted to a new player among the fleeing civilians. Refusing to let it attack the evacuees, Shizuya activates a holy blessing to draw its attention back. He launches himself off the ground, rocketing back towards the colossal stone guardian. Soaring through the air, he closes the distance with incredible speed, aiming for the monster's torso. He recalls that even these tough guardians have a critical weakness he can exploit. Ignoring the thick armor, he zeroes in on the one vulnerable spot on the golem's body. With a powerful strike, he plunges his hand directly into the golem's glowing energy core. The golem retaliates instantly, swinging its massive hand down to crush him. He meets the attack head-on, his own fist crackling with blue energy to block the blow. He unleashes Takuto's sweep mana skill, channeling a torrent of destructive energy. A relentless barrage of mana blasts hammers the golem's core, causing a chain of internal explosions. The colossal guardian's stone body cracks and shatters under the overwhelming assault. Light erupts from the golem's chest as its power source overloads catastrophically. Kokone watches in horror, whispering his name as the situation spirals out of control. He realizes too late that the golem's core was a self-destruct trap designed to take him with it. Trapped within the exploding energy, he grimly accepts his apparent demise. A massive pillar of golden light erupts from the cavern, consuming everything in a blinding flash. From a distance, the sheer scale of the devastating explosion is made terrifyingly clear. As the dust settles, a mysterious armor-clad figure with glowing blue runes emerges from the mist. A time skip reveals 72 hours have passed since the Shadow invasion began. A military helicopter approaches the mountain, drawn by the massive column of smoke from the explosion. All that remains of the cavern is a deep, smoldering crater, still smoking from the intense blast. A new arrival steps onto the scorched earth, annoyed that the prize they came for has already been taken. The green-haired woman speculates that the target may have self-destructed, denying them their reward. Her partner, a red-haired girl with a wild look, seems confused by the situation. The man wonders if another powerful force defeated the monsters, or if they simply destroyed each other. His sharp eyes suddenly detect an unexpected presence nearby. He spots the mysterious armored figure walking away, while the figure itself seems to notice them in turn. The red-haired girl prepares for a fight, wondering if the figure is a powerful elite monster. The red-haired girl, Satsuki, eagerly brandishes her enormous high-tech hammer, ready for a fight. Her eyes glow with manic energy as she grins, hoping this new opponent will provide a real challenge. Her green-haired partner takes aim with his bow, calmly explaining that he can't stop her once she's hyped for a fight. Promising a swift end, she launches herself into a devastating attack as her partner fires a glowing arrow. But the armored figure effortlessly sidesteps the combined assault with blinding speed. The battle-crazed girl is instantly neutralized, left stunned and defeated on the rubble-strewn ground. With his partner neutralized, the archer stands his ground as the armored figure points a finger at him. The armored figure's blade pierces the archer's shoulder, making him realize this opponent is on another level. The armored figure stands impassively, confirming the archer's fear that he is facing a foe in a completely different class. A glint of light from the figure's helmet reveals a cold, unwavering focus, ready to end the fight. The archer watches in disbelief as the mysterious figure simply turns its back on him. Without a backward glance, the armored warrior walks away, leaving the defeated hunters behind. Enraged by the mercy, Satsuki demands to know why he won't deliver the final blow. Her partner speculates that perhaps they were spared because their foe has a much more important target. Suddenly, Shizuya's consciousness fades into a strange, whimsical vision. His eyes snap open, revealing he is no longer on the battlefield. He finds himself looking at the unfamiliar surroundings of a tidy room. The scene pans out, revealing he has woken up in a young woman's bedroom. He sits up in bed, completely disoriented and confused by his new location. His confusion turns to shock as he discovers his right hand has transformed into a monstrous, armored claw. He theorizes the golem's core explosion fused with shadow fragments, restructuring his very body. A system window confirms his trait now absorbs boss skills, granting him the powers of the twin demons and the golem. He assesses his new strength, estimating he's now equivalent to a level 25 game character. But his immediate concern isn't his power, but how he ended up in this strange room. His thoughts are interrupted by the pleasant smell of cooking food and the sound of music. The source is a blue-haired girl with headphones, humming a tune that's more enthusiastic than melodic. She's in the middle of making breakfast, frying an egg in a pan. Noticing he's awake, the mysterious girl turns and greets him with a friendly smile. As he steps out from behind a curtain, she tells him to wait a moment while she finishes cooking. The sudden return to a peaceful domestic life leaves him momentarily speechless. He reflects on the burning city outside, wishing his rescuer understood the true gravity of their situation. The scene shifts to the desolate, rain-soaked ruins of the city, a stark contrast to their cozy shelter. From outside the window, they're seen sharing a meal, a moment of peace amidst the apocalypse. He uses his transformed hand to pick up a glass, politely telling her the food is delicious. Despite his words, he admits with a weary smile that he doesn't have much of an appetite. She laughs it off, waving her hand and admitting she knows her cooking isn't very good. The girl proudly points out her apartment, boasting she has enough supplies to last a week. She then sheepishly corrects herself, explaining she was actually running low and found him while she was out shopping. He finally asks the question on his mind, how she managed to bring him here all by herself. A flashback shows her dragging his unconscious body, as she explains she used a golf cart and surprisingly saw no monsters on the way. The girl tells Shizuya she sensed something strange about him from the start. She observes that he lacks any sense of fear or anxiety, which she finds unsettling. With a sharp look, she concludes it's as if he has no fear of death whatsoever. She then reveals she understands his calmness because she's in a similar situation. With a confident smile, she explains that she's tested this theory on herself. A flashback reveals her own horrifying discovery. The monsters simply do not attack her. The memory shows her sitting calmly in the middle of a war zone, completely ignored by the rampaging shadow creatures. In the memory, she even tries to provoke them, but they continue their rampage as if she doesn't exist. A massive shadow monster walks right past her, confirming she is completely invisible to its aggression. Back in the present, she cheerfully suggests she might have a superpower, just like his monstrous armored hand. Shizuya asks if she can see any game-like panels, but she confirms she sees nothing unusual. He stands, his armored arm glowing with digital energy, preparing to share a seemingly ridiculous story. He reveals his powers are directly connected to a game called Azure Land, as his hand morphs into a weapon. Shizuya explains his firm belief that the current global disaster is directly correlated with that game. The girl cheekily strikes a pose, more impressed by his amazing abilities than the gravity of his explanation. After organizing his thoughts, Shizuya comes to the grim conclusion that humanity is in a truly dire situation. The girl casually asks him what his next move will be, given the apocalyptic circumstances. He states his immediate plan. They must leave for a city called Kaijou as soon as possible. Shizuya reveals his important comrades are in Kaijou, and he needs to confirm their safety. A glint in her determined eye shows she has just come to a decision. With a confident smirk, the blue-haired girl announces she's joining his journey to Kaijou. Shizuya questions her logic, arguing her monster-repelling trait makes traveling alone far safer. She slumps onto the table, admitting that while she's safe, she's completely directionless and doesn't know what to do. Her gaze sharpens with conviction as she reveals another, more personal reason for her decision. She explains that he doesn't seem like the type to die easily, recalling a painful memory of loss. A dark cloud of thought seems to hang over her as she finishes her explanation. Shizuya's expression hardens as he considers her unexpected and risky proposal. Their quiet moment is suddenly shattered as they both react to a strange noise. His attention snaps toward the front door, a sense of unease growing as he recognizes the sound. He realizes with a jolt that someone is attempting to pick the lock from the outside. Shizuya quickly gestures for silence, his intense focus fixed on the sound from the door. He calmly instructs the girl to hide, taking charge of the situation himself. As she retreats, he casually picks up their breakfast tray and walks toward the entrance. He silently hopes it's a false alarm, but his determined expression shows he's ready for anything. The lock clicks open and the handle turns, confirming their sanctuary has been breached. A shadowy figure cracks the door open, offering a casual greeting from the dark hallway. The intruders are revealed to be three hooded figures, their faces grim and suspicious. Shizuya greets them with a disarming smile, calmly inquiring about their identities. The lead figure feigns surprise, apologizing and claiming he thought the apartment was abandoned. Maintaining his cool demeanor, Shizuya reassures them, suggesting that in this world, survival is the top priority. The lead intruder explains they've been on the run, surprised to find anyone else alive in the desolate city. Shizuya calmly invites the trio inside, offering them refuge from the rain and the monsters roaming the streets. As the group enters, he plays the gracious host, offering them drinks and a place to rest. One of the intruders, a pink-haired woman, immediately asks for the location of the restroom. From her hiding spot, the blue-haired girl nervously points the woman in the right direction. A bead of sweat rolls down her face, her expression tense with worry about their uninvited guests. Shizuya returns to the table, placing drinks before the two men who remain seated. The leader's sharp eyes fixate on Shizuya's arm, questioning him about his conspicuous right hand. Shizuya stands calmly with his arms crossed, his bandaged and transformed hand on full display. He casually lies about the injury, while one of the men remarks on the difficulty of surviving alone. Shizuya explains his well-stocked apartment is just a lucky coincidence from some online shopping. The leader asks about his future plans, revealing his own desire to find a safe, supplied place to hide. With a sly grin, Shizuya points out that the apartment might be a little too crowded for 4 people. The leader's friendly facade drops, revealing a sinister grin as he agrees 3 people would be a much better fit. Suddenly, one of the men lunges forward, bringing a weapon down with the intent to end Shizuya's life. But Shizuya reacts instantly, his transformed arm flaring to life with crackling blue energy. His armored limb easily intercepts the strike, shattering the weapon and leaving his attacker stunned. The second intruder pulls out a stun device, preparing to join the fray from a distance. With a quick sidestep, Shizuya dodges the incoming electrical attack. He fluidly transitions into a powerful kick, disarming his second opponent with ease. He follows up with a swift kick, sending the stun device flying from the man's grasp. Enraged, the leader lunges forward, determined to take Shizuya down himself. But Shizuya moves like a blur, striking the leader with a devastating blow from his energized arm. He stands over the fallen intruders, his arm now a glowing blade as the men stare in utter terror. The remaining attacker scrambles backward, accusing Shizuya of being a monster disguised as a human. Shizuya calmly agrees, embracing his new monstrous power as he looks down on his defeated foes. To prove his point, he slams his blade down, pinning and shattering the stun device on the floor. His eyes glow with power as he declares he is no longer the defenseless civilian they mistook him for. Just as he prepares to finish them, the blue-haired girl appears, demanding he stop the assault. She steps between them, physically blocking Shizuya and bringing the one-sided fight to an abrupt halt. The pink-haired woman suddenly appears, pressing a blade against the blue-haired girl's neck. She reveals her true colors, holding the girl hostage and issuing a deadly ultimatum. The intruder explains she was never fooled, deducing from the room's state that he wasn't living alone. Shizuya blames himself for his poor planning, realizing he completely misjudged the woman's intentions. He admits his fatal error was assuming she was safe from all threats just because monsters ignored her. Shizuya concludes that in a world without order, the most terrifying creature is still a human. With his other opponents neutralized, he faces the woman who is now backed away with her captive. The intruder reveals she was drawn in by the smell of food, cursing her luck for running into him. Her eyes fixate on his transformed arm, terrified by the monstrous power it represents. Shizuya calmly proposes a hostage exchange, secretly knowing his long-range capabilities give him the upper hand. The woman makes her demands, believing she has the upper hand with her hostage. But before she can react, Shizuya's arm morphs into a crystalline blade and strikes. The blue-haired girl whips around in shock as the confrontation ends in a blur of motion. The blade finds its mark, neutralizing the attacker and ending her desperate gambit. His companion urgently pulls him away, calling him by his full name for the first time. As they flee, Shizuya's gaze falls upon the weapon the woman used, a detail he finds disturbingly familiar. His eyes widen in horror as he realizes the grave implications of what just happened. A powerful, shadowy figure with glowing blue runes materializes over the defeated woman, identified as a level 41 noble. He remembers a key mechanic from Azure Land. Defeated players can enter a hate stalk state to hunt their killer. This vengeful state allows players to track their target and reclaim their lost items upon achieving revenge. He pushes his companion to safety, telling her to run while he faces the new threat. The vengeful noble ignores Shizuya, bringing its massive weapon down on one of the helpless intruders first. After dealing with the man, the noble's attention shifts, its true target now clear. The armored avenger brandishes its glowing blade, confirming its vengeful hunt is for Shizuya. Shizuya parries the noble's devastating strike with his crystalline arm, the impact shaking the room. He swiftly dodges and counters with a powerful kick, creating a brief opening. The force of their battle shatters the window, sending Shizuya hurtling out of the high-rise. Plummeting towards the ground, he sees the relentless noble leap out of the building in pursuit. Mid-fall, he activates Rapid Mana, charging a massive energy blast to counterattack. The noble dives down, sword poised for a finishing blow, meeting Shizuya's blast head-on. He uses the momentum to slide down the side of a building, landing hard on the rain-soaked street. The armored noble lands right behind him, its immense weight sending a huge splash of water into the air. Without hesitation, Shizuya sprints away, trying to create distance from his relentless pursuer. He ducks into a nearby building, desperately racing up a flight of stairs to gain a tactical advantage. Clutching his shoulder, he grimaces, surprised by the sheer power behind the noble's first direct hit. He slumps against the wall, activating a holy blessing to rapidly heal his wounds. Shizuya recognizes that despite his versatile powers, his physical strength is no match for this elite-level monster. The heavy rhythmic footsteps of the noble echo from below as it begins its ascent. The vengeful spirit appears at the bottom of the stairs, its glowing blade poised to strike. Realizing he's cornered, Shizuya turns and unleashes a sweep mana blast directly at his pursuer. The noble charges through the mana barrage, unfazed by the multiple impacts. It reforms on the next landing, its shadowy form solidifying as it continues the hunt. The noble leaps from a higher landing, initiating a diving technical shot. It unleashes a powerful downward attack, its energy blade descending upon Shizuya. Shizuya stands his ground, perfectly parrying the devastating overhead slash. The two immense forces collide in a brilliant flash of blue energy, shaking the stairwell. He confirms his suspicions, realizing the noble's movements are predictable. Seizing the opening, he launches a counterattack, sending an explosive blast back up the stairs. He recalls a critical flaw in the game's system. The enemy's tracking doesn't account for verticality. Shizuya reveals his plan to use the narrow, multi-level stairwell to his tactical advantage. He realizes tactics alone aren't enough, setting a flammable trap on the stairs below. Deciding to end the hunt for good, he launches a fireball spell at the trap. His spell ignites the liquid, triggering a powerful explosion at the noble's feet. A series of explosions erupts from the side of the building, showing the fire's devastating path. From a higher landing, he watches the inferno rage below, hoping it's enough to stop his pursuer. But through the roaring flames, the noble's silhouette emerges, completely unfazed. The noble reveals its trump card, a priest-type skill called Saint Breath that smothers the inferno. The foe's new ability makes him question if other powerful shadow walkers are also in the city. His mana blasts prove useless against the noble's defensive aura as it closes the distance once more. He finally understands that these new foes are on a completely different level than anything he's faced before. He recalls a past encounter, realizing his survival was a mix of luck and exploiting his enemy's weakness. But he knows these new intelligent foes won't be so easily tricked or grant him a second chance. Outside, a powerful thunderstorm rages, with lightning illuminating the dark, rainy sky. The flash of lightning catches Shizuya's eye, sparking a sudden, brilliant idea. His expression shifts from desperation to determination as a new plan clicks into place. He glances up the stairwell towards the roof, considering a high-risk, high-reward strategy. Meanwhile, his companion splashes through the rain-soaked streets below, having escaped the building. She looks back with a worried expression, calling out his name into the storm. A tremendous noise erupts from the building, making her fear for his safety. Her attention is suddenly drawn to a new figure down the street, crackling with ominous green energy. She wonders if this new, menacing figure is another one of Shizuya's powerful allies. Realizing the situation is worse than ever, she desperately searches for a way to help. Her eyes land on a large, abandoned vehicle, sparking a desperate idea. A plan forms in her mind, a risky gambit that might just work. She climbs into the driver's seat, her hands gripping the controls with newfound purpose. With a determined glare, she resolves to use her unique monster-ignoring trait to her advantage. Down on the street, the new enemy unleashes a brilliant blast of green energy. High above, lightning illuminates the storm-ravaged city, setting a dramatic stage. Shizuya finally reaches the rooftop, standing firm against the torrential downpour. He calmly walks toward the edge, preparing to face his pursuer one last time. The new enemy on the street below reveals its full form, a menacing knight wreathed in crackling green energy. On the rooftop, Shizuya smirks, acknowledging that he has finally been cornered. His pursuer bursts onto the roof, landing with immense force and cutting off his escape. But instead of fear, Shizuya's eyes burn with defiance as he prepares for the final showdown. A massive, glowing magic circle suddenly erupts around them, sealing the rooftop into a combat arena. The intricate runes of the spell lock them in, ensuring neither can escape the impending battle. Shizuya raises his glowing arm, ready to face his foe within the confines of the magical barrier. But a new challenger crashes the party, as Satsuki leaps from above, brandishing her enormous hammer. The vengeful noble is revealed to be the archer from before, who questions Satsuki's unexpected arrival. Satsuki lands with devastating force, shattering the rooftop and ready to join the chaotic fray. The force of her landing shatters the rooftop and sends the archer's bow flying through the air. She plants herself between Shizuya and the vengeful noble, ready to intercept the fight. The battle-hungry girl challenges the noble, demanding it forget its target and face her instead. The noble looks up, explaining that thanks to his own kind, he is now in this powerful state. Her eyes burn with red energy as she declares her immense anger, eager for a rematch. Without waiting for a response, she charges forward, unleashing a powerful spinning attack across the watery rooftop. The noble effortlessly blocks her strike with its crystalline blade, its transformed body holding firm. Using a grappling ability, the agile noble swings away, easily evading her follow-up attack. Satsuki scoffs in disgust, disappointed by what she perceives as the noble's lack of fighting spirit. She clenches her fist in frustration, admitting she's envious of the rampage Shizuya was on earlier. She turns to Shizuya, demanding to know the identity of this new, powerful foe. The noble ignores her question, landing a swift, cutting blow across Shizuya's face. His eyes blazing with power, Shizuya unleashes a furious counterattack with his armored arm. His powerful strike connects, sending the vengeful noble staggering backward. He lands lightly on his feet, noticing his attack has damaged the noble's leg, which now drips with shadowy essence. But the fight is interrupted by the sudden arrival of the green-armored knight from the street below. The newcomer immediately reveals its purpose, casting a Saint Breath spell that heals the noble's wounds. He grimaces, realizing that with a dedicated healer, his enemy can fight indefinitely, and he'll be the one to tire first. With its ally healed, the Green Knight takes the offensive, lunging at Shizuya with blinding speed. He understands his only path to victory is to take out the healer, but he must first figure out how to counter its powerful spell. The Green Knight leaps forward, its energy-infused blade poised to strike Shizuya down. But Shizuya notices the healing link has vanished, realizing the priest must have been neutralized. He glances down to the street below, spotting a familiar vehicle and wondering if his companion is responsible. Inside the cart, Kokone flashes a determined grin, confirming she's about to make her move. She confirms her theory as the powerful knight on the street completely ignores her presence. With a confident smirk, she grips the controls, ready to turn her special trait into a weapon. She floors it, ramming the vehicle directly into the unsuspecting, super-powered knight. The knight is sent flying by the unexpected low-tech assault from the golf cart. Kokone's eyes widen in shock, not at her success, but at what is revealed in the aftermath. The knight's armor shatters, revealing a mysterious man with long green hair and a sinister smile. A mysterious man with long blue hair observes the chaos, noting that a civilian has just fought back. He admits that while he doesn't like to meddle, the current situation has piqued his interest. On the rooftop, the vengeful noble smirks, remarking on the rarity of a support-type monster being taken out so easily. He leaps from the building, landing on the street below to rejoin the battle. Now on the ground, Shizuya faces the noble as it lunges forward, wreathed in blue energy. Shizuya recognizes the familiar attack pattern, bracing himself for the incoming slash. He prepares to parry the blade, but the noble switches tactics midair with blinding speed. Instead of a weapon, a powerful kick connects squarely with Shizuya, sending him reeling. He lands hard on the rain-soaked street, momentarily stunned by the unexpected blow. His eyes blaze with fury and frustration, realizing he's been completely outmaneuvered. The noble wastes no time, splashing through the water to press its advantage. He reflects on the feint, realizing that if the noble's first attack had been that fast, he would have been done for. He finally understands these foes are essentially players from Azure Land, not mindless monsters. He knows that the longer the fight drags on, the stronger and more skilled his opponents become. Yet, he realizes that in this particular battle, stalling for time is his only real path to victory. His eye glows with power, revealing the secret reason he's confident in his new stalling tactic. Suddenly, a massive bolt of lightning strikes a nearby building, revealing the core of his plan. The noble is engulfed by the raw power of the lightning strike, its silhouette frozen in the blinding flash. The attack leaves the noble critically injured and paralyzed, its weakened state confirmed by a system notification. Its weapon slips from its paralyzed grasp, clattering onto the rain-soaked ground as its defeat becomes certain. Shizuya explains that the noble's failure to understand the battlefield sealed its fate. He declares that this time, his foe didn't lose to a player, but to the very rules of this new world. He reveals his simple yet brilliant strategy, using a rooftop lightning rod to his advantage. He demonstrates his knowledge by leaping away, avoiding the dangerous step voltage from the lightning strike. He admits his plan was a reckless gamble, acknowledging that luck was the only thing that saved him. His arm transforms into a glowing blade as he prepares to capitalize on his high-stakes victory. With his enemy helpless, he delivers a decisive final blow, ending the relentless pursuit. The system confirms the noble is near death, but Shizuya realizes with a jolt that the body isn't disappearing. Frustrated, he strikes the unmoving foe again, trying to force the system to register the kill. But before he can figure it out, Satsuki crashes down from above, bringing her massive hammer down on the noble's head. Satsuki calmly asks the defeated noble if it has had enough punishment. She questions its original motive, wondering if its purpose was to hunt humans. Her hammer's impact completely obliterates the noble's body in a devastating blast. Standing in the wreckage, she scolds the fallen foe for trying to run away from a real fight. Suddenly, a massive lightning blade descends from the sky, aimed directly at her. The attack misses, slamming into the street as Satsuki leaps clear of the blast zone. Her face contorts into a battle-crazed grin, thrilled by the challenge of this new opponent. Shizuya shouts a warning, telling Satsuki not to pursue the figure now fleeing the scene. She glances back, annoyed by the interruption and questioning his command. The green-haired man watches the figure retreat, realizing it must be following a new directive. The green-haired man explains he has to leave, telling Satsuki he's on the verge of exploding with frustration. He reveals they've received an order from their boss to assemble, overriding his personal desire for a fight. As he departs, Kokone recalls Shizuya's words about Sinal users, noting these new fighters are different. The man instructs Satsuki to meet at a rendezvous point, suspecting Shizuya has other powerful allies. Kokone pushes aside her confusion, her primary concern now being Shizuya's well-being. Far below, Shizuya walks alone through the desolate, rain-slicked streets. Unseen by him, a massive bird-like monster with a glowing red eye watches him from a high perch. The scene shifts to 102 hours after the invasion began, as a fleet of military helicopters cuts through the smoky sky. A rescue squad receives a distress signal, but their limited capacity means they can't save everyone. HQ confirms the targets are one male and one female, as the rescue unit questions the origin of the signal. A military helicopter descends onto a rooftop, kicking up debris as it lands. The blue-haired woman celebrates their apparent rescue, standing beside a new, unfamiliar man. Once aboard, she angrily confronts the pilot, demanding to know who they are. The pilot expresses his confusion, admitting he made a wrong assumption about their identities. The mysterious man reveals he knows exactly who the pilot was expecting, shocking the woman with his knowledge. Aboard the chopper, he calmly begins to explain his connection to the people they were sent to rescue. He reveals he was fighting alongside them, and that they gave him the radio to call for help. The helicopter lifts off, leaving the strange, castle-like city behind. The pilot grimly notes the lack of any good news, reflecting the dire state of the world. He informs them of their next stop at a shelter, but the man questions their ultimate destination. The pilot agrees to share what he knows, since the information isn't exactly classified. He reveals Kaijou City is a war zone against shadows, a term that makes the man realize others might share his unique abilities. The man grabs the pilot's shoulder, startling him and demanding to be taken to the dangerous city. The pilot warns him that their mission is a one-way trip, a reinforcement run with little hope of survival. Despite the grim odds, the pilot asks for the man's reason for such a reckless request. The blue-haired woman interjects, claiming she has important friends there and can handle herself. Convinced by her survival so far, the pilot agrees to their dangerous detour as the chopper flies on. The woman then questions the man, asking if these friends are worth risking his life for. She leans in with a teasing grin, playfully guessing that his motivation is a girl. He calmly confirms a woman is involved, but dismisses her prying question with a cool gaze. She teases him with a sly smile, admitting she's envious of his many friends. Aboard the helicopter, she stretches dramatically, complaining that the flight is making her drowsy. Without waiting for an answer, she playfully rests her head on his shoulder. He reluctantly agrees, closing his eyes for a brief moment of peace. But his eyes snap open in alarm as a sudden sense of danger washes over him. The pilot shouts a warning, announcing their arrival at a hot zone already under enemy attack. His companion calls out his full name, Tokiwaki Shizuya, sensing his abrupt change in demeanor. He ignores her question, his face set with grim determination as he prepares to enter the battle. Below them, the city is engulfed in chaos, a full-scale war raging between humans and shadows. On the ground, tanks and soldiers unleash a barrage of firepower, locked in a desperate struggle. A massive magic circle envelops the military forces, trapping them in a powerful spell. The spell unleashes a devastating wave of energy, overwhelming the soldiers and their equipment. On a nearby rooftop, a monstrous shadow beast reveals itself as the caster of the devastating spell. The military retaliates, launching a volley of missiles directly at the rooftop monster. The missiles connect, engulfing the side of the building in a fiery explosion. From the smoke, a winged shadow emerges unscathed, confirming the elimination of its target as it descends on a helicopter. The creature attacks the chopper while another battles on the ground, sending out a desperate call for backup. In a dark room, a monitor displays lost signals from the battlefield, as an armored hand observes a small robotic familiar. The armored figure swiftly snatches the tiny surveillance drone out of the air. With a single motion, the figure crushes the drone, silencing its transmission permanently. On the ground, a colossal armored shadow towers over the helpless soldiers. The giant monster unleashes its power, carving a path of destruction through the city. Shizuya gazes at the burning cityscape, admitting he has a secret reason for returning to this war zone. He recalls a critical game mechanic, realizing the enemy's first target should be the fortress. The military helicopters engage in a fierce aerial battle around a prominent clock tower. He recognizes the structure as the Room Tower, a key landmark from the game's battlefields. The tower now appears as a corrupted ancient fortress, a C-zone from the game world. A soldier screams in defiance, trusting in the power of their modern military arsenal. His hope is shattered as a winged shadow effortlessly shrugs off their barrage, proving their weapons are useless. The pilot announces the fire control radar is jammed, but Shizuya calmly identifies it as a barrier effect. He deduces the shadows are fighting as if they already know every military countermeasure. He recalls a similar battle from the game, remembering a hard-won prize from facing these winged beasts. Without warning, he calls out to his companion, Kokone Ichijo, getting her full attention. He grabs her arm, urgently asking if she knows how to whistle before she can react. She looks confused and flustered by his strange and sudden demand. Ignoring her confusion, he shoves her towards the open door of the helicopter. She cries out in shock as she is pushed from the aircraft, falling towards the city below. Shizuya watches her descent with grim resolve, his gaze fixed on the sky. A massive winged beast swoops in, intercepting Kokone's fall with its powerful claws. Shizuya now stands atop the creature, brandishing a colossal glowing blue sword, ready for battle. He plunges his energy blade deep into the monster's skull, unleashing a torrent of blue power. The shocked pilots stare out the cockpit, recognizing the man who was just their passenger. With a small familiar perched on his shoulder, he urges the military forces to escape. He activates Brave Flag, sprouting ethereal wings and buffing the entire military squadron. Below, a colossal shadow beast watches the aerial battle rage, unfazed by the surrounding explosions. A system notification confirms a powerful attack has been unleashed, striking a winged foe with a beam of light. The sky becomes a chaotic ballet of missiles and monsters as helicopters and shadows clash. Knowing he can't win in the air, he resolves to take the fight to the ground. He leaps from his mount, only to see a massive swarm of winged shadows ascending to intercept him. The horde of monsters converges on his falling form, blotting out the sky and sealing his path. Trapped in his descent, Shizuya fights back, punching his way through the monstrous horde. The winged shadows crash into each other, thrown into disarray by his mid-air assault. He carves a path through the swarm, turning his perilous fall into a controlled dive. But just as he's about to be overwhelmed, a hand latches onto a monster's leg from below. Kokone reveals herself, having commandeered a winged shadow to intercept his fall. She pulls him onto her new mount, explaining she returned to rescue him from his reckless dive. Kokone reveals she understood his plan, realizing the whistle was a signal to summon a powerful ally. Her whistle called forth a massive tamed shadow, a powerful new mount for their counterattack. Riding the colossal beast, she questions how this new creature will turn the tide of the battle. The creature suddenly lurches, throwing her off balance and into Shizuya's arms. The tamed beast suddenly thrashes, trying to throw them off its back. Shizuya explains the creature doesn't consider him an ally, which is why it's acting hostile. He reveals its true nature as a griffin, a creature that instinctively saves falling players. But with Kokone safe, the griffon now sees Shizuya as a threat and tries to buck him off. The creature slams itself into a nearby building, attempting to dislodge its unwanted rider. The impact sends them crashing into the structure, leaving Kokone injured amidst the debris. Having shaken them off, the griffin takes to the sky, leaving them stranded on the damaged building. Seeing the creature as a threat, Shizuya prepares to strike it down, but Kokone begs him to stop. She insists she can communicate with the beast, believing she can calm it down. Kokone cautiously approaches the agitated griffon, trying to soothe its fear. Kokone gently reassures the beast, explaining that Shizuya is a friend who saved her. He watches in disbelief, stunned by her unprecedented ability to reason with a monster. Shizuya realizes he's never encountered a player who could truly communicate with enemies before. He reflects that in the game, monsters were just obstacles for experience and loot, not beings to interact with. Shizuya concludes that only an irregular like Kokone could possess such an unconventional talent. He even considers that her unique existence might be more special than his own. Her words succeed, and the now calm griffin gently lowers them into the water below. Kokone joyfully thanks the creature for its help as it departs. She waves goodbye as the griffon flies off, silhouetted against the full moon. Noticing his silence, she questions his thoughts, but he simply smiles, hiding his deep contemplation. After a long and chaotic journey, they finally arrive at the shores of Kaijou City. They find a moment of respite, sitting by a small campfire on an empty road. Illuminated by the fire, she looks at him intently, questioning his plans for the future. He admits he underestimated the enemy's speed, revealing the entire Kodo district is already lost. A long bridge stretches towards the city skyline, a silent testament to the territory they must cross. She voices her concern, asking about his friends and hoping they aren't trapped in the fallen district. His silence is her answer as he stands and turns, preparing to leave. She grabs his arm in protest, but he insists that the danger is precisely why he must go. Frustrated by his stubborn resolve, she puts a hand to her head in exasperation. He turns back with a determined look, revealing he has a plan, which only deepens her concern. Kokone confidently argues that her unique trait makes her the perfect person to enter the dangerous district. He counters that her ability isn't guaranteed, but she impatiently demands he show her a picture of his friends. His hesitation is met with her sly, knowing smirk, silently challenging his reluctance. He lets out a sigh of defeat, finally relenting to her persistent demands. She playfully leans in, pulling his phone from his pocket as he recalls their last meeting 2 years prior. On the screen is a photo from the past, with Kokone teasing him about his friends and his pose. She focuses on the woman in the photo, commenting on her beauty and speculating about her background. He reveals the woman's name is Hitomi, cryptically hinting that she's not who she appears to be. With newfound determination, Kokone vows to find Hiyane, much to Shizuya's bemusement. He types out a plan on his phone, warning her not to be reckless as she eagerly accepts the mission. Kokone shoves past him, eagerly rushing off to begin her solo mission. She gives him a final, teasing look before disappearing into the night. With a confident smile, she looks to the sky as her tamed griffin flies away. Shizuya watches her go, marveling at how quickly she's adapted to this dangerous new world. He reveals to himself that letting her go was a calculated move, a necessary part of his own plan. Gazing at the city, he resolves to keep her away from the true danger that lies ahead. The scene shifts to a seemingly peaceful city street under a bright, clear sky. But this peace is shattered by the sudden appearance of an army of armored knights on monstrous steeds. Wreathed in chaotic energy, the dark cavalry charges forward, launching a full-scale invasion. They clash with defending soldiers, overwhelming the modern forces with their supernatural power. A soldier desperately radios his unit, ordering them to lure the enemy into the park. From a concealed position, a sniper takes aim at a robed shadow, lining up the perfect shot. But the hunter becomes the hunted as a different shadow ambushes the sniper from above. The creature dives with blinding speed, its energy-laced attack poised to eliminate the soldier. Shizuya appears in a flash, kicking the monster aside and saving the soldier from certain doom. He immediately follows up with his pistol, firing a shot with cold, unwavering focus. The bullet strikes the shadow dead center, causing a burst of light on impact. The rescued soldier stares in awe as Shizuya stands over the defeated monster's dissipating form. Ignoring the soldier's questions, Shizuya calmly reloads and asks for the location of their command post. His eyes glint with cold calculation as he absorbs the tactical information. The scene shifts to the real world, focusing on the towering skyscrapers of Kaijou Station. He compares a real-world map to its game-world counterpart, identifying the station as the enemy's nest core. This corrupted fortress is the strategic heart of the enemy forces, a key location from his past life. He believes that reaching this place is the only way to rendezvous with humanity's main defensive line. Wary of how they'll react to his powers, he decides to keep his unique abilities concealed for now. He follows a heavily armed military squad as they descend into a subway station. He reasons that since humans still hold this territory, the subway provides a direct path to the command post. But his plan is interrupted as the soldiers suddenly turn on him, their weapons aimed at his head. He leaps back just in time, narrowly avoiding a hail of bullets from the suspicious soldiers. With no other choice, he reveals his power, manifesting a crystalline shield to deflect the attack. His crystalline shield effortlessly deflects the soldiers' bullets, which spark and ricochet off its surface. He channels his power, a skill called rapid mana, preparing to unleash a blinding flash of energy. Even a heavy machine gun proves useless, its rounds disintegrating against his powerful defense. The soldiers regroup, their commander ordering them to fire at will, convinced he's a hostile threat. Shizuya desperately tries to de-escalate the situation, insisting that he is a human. The soldiers remain suspicious, questioning why he triggered a shadow-exclusive alarm and pointing to his transformed hand. He's shocked to learn the military has technology that can distinguish shadows from humans, a detail he never expected. Raising his hands in surrender, he attempts to reason with the squad, but they order him to stay back. His senses flare as he detects a far greater threat approaching from behind the soldiers. The soldiers are forced to turn as a horde of shadows charges them, immediately shifting their fire to the new enemy. The soldiers are instantly overwhelmed as the dark cavalry charges, turning the subway into a chaotic battlefield. Realizing the position is lost, Shizuya seizes the opportunity to escape, unleashing an energy slash as he flees. He vaults onto a high ledge, spotting his only way out of the chaotic crossfire. With his arm crackling with power, he dives from the building, aiming for a moving subway train below. He lands perfectly atop the speeding train, using a burst of energy to absorb the impact. Now riding the train, he speeds through the dark tunnel, committed to his high-speed infiltration. Meanwhile, military command detects an unknown signal rapidly approaching their post along the subway line. Crackling with power, Shizuya rides the train, sensing the welcome party that awaits him. He spots a heavily armed squad waiting for him on the platform, surprised by their determination to stop him. A soldier takes aim with a laser sight, preparing to intercept the high-speed intruder with a single decisive shot. He deflects the incoming shot with his crystalline arm, creating a brilliant flash of light. A confident smirk crosses his face as he feels his power surge, realizing it's even stronger than the shadows. He leaps from the moving train, gracefully evading a storm of bullets from the waiting soldiers. Landing on the platform, he knows he must break their formation if he wants to de-escalate the situation. He resigns himself to the fact that escaping this confrontation without causing harm will be nearly impossible. Suddenly, An authoritative figure gives a sharp command, ordering the soldiers to cease their attack. Shizuya looks on in surprise as the soldiers halt their assault, their attention shifting to a new arrival. A man in a suit reviews a security feed, explaining that a system malfunction falsely identified Shizuya. The well-dressed man descends the stairs, calmly informing his soldiers that their target is not a shadow. With a piercing gaze, he declares that Shizuya is, in fact, an ally. Shizuya stares in disbelief, a flicker of recognition in his eyes as he studies the newcomer. The scene shifts to 14 hours after the invasion began, with military forces securing a major city building. Helicopters descend upon the Kaijou station, now a heavily fortified military headquarters. The man in the white suit approaches, addressing Shizuya by his full name, Shizuya Kamahata. He casually questions Shizuya's intentions, wondering if he was about to eliminate the entire squad. The man states he's here to ask for cooperation, leaving Shizuya trying to place his familiar face. Before getting to business, the man in white pauses, sizing up the silent warrior before him. With a confident smirk, he accuses Shizuya of having genuine lethal intent towards the soldiers. Shizuya remains silent as the man lectures him, explaining that kindness is a liability in a war zone. Their conversation is interrupted by the arrival of an imposing older man, identified as CEO William. The man in white dismisses the idea that Shizuya is just another troublemaker, defending his presence. He explains Shizuya is a newcomer, who impressively found his way to the base without any guidance. The CEO studies Shizuya's reflection, identifying him with the game world title of Oathkeeper. The man in white smirks, acknowledging how quickly everyone has adopted the game's lingo. William announces a critical meeting in 1 hour, requiring a representative from their SEAM group. The blonde man cheerfully inquires about the number of attendees permitted for the meeting. The CEO curtly informs them that only 2 representatives will be allowed to join. Later, in a private room, Shizuya is bluntly told to get cleaned up before anything else. The man in white presents a clean suit, instructing him to bathe and change into more suitable attire. Shizuya raises a hand in protest, clearly unamused by the lecture on his battlefield fashion choices. The man in white proposes an information exchange, a suggestion that piques Shizuya's interest. He begins by explaining the SEAM Group, a 200-year-old global powerhouse ranked 5th in the world. Their influence spans across major industries like electronics and finance, backed by immense resources. The corporation also heavily invests in advanced science, machinery, and other technological fields. Their research extends into complex scientific endeavors, hinting at their vast capabilities. He reveals a shocking connection. SEAM Group is the creator of the VR MMORPG Azureland. Back in the present, he quizzes Shizuya on his knowledge of the powerful organization. He admits that since the shadows appeared, global networks are down, leaving him blind to his own company's activities. In a stunning confession, he reveals that his own subordinates have started calling themselves Shadow. As Shizuya steps behind a frosted glass door, the man questions if that's why he was targeted in the subway. The man in white assures him the identity issue is solved, as he has the authority to register Shizuya himself. Shizuya is stunned that such an organized system exists only a week after the invasion began. The man compares it to a beta test, revealing a program called Overwrite was active 2 weeks before the attack. A holographic scanner confirms Shizuya's identity as he absorbs the shocking revelation. He explains this test was a covert operation, with data shared only among elite international organizations. Shizuya listens intently, realizing this critical information was deliberately withheld from the public. The man justifies the secrecy, arguing that a public announcement would have only caused mass panic. He learns the SEAM Group's master even named the Shadows, confirming the world's elite knew of the game connection. Shizuya deduces from the military's attitude that they don't fully trust the SEAM Group, sensing a deeper conflict. As Shizuya's silhouette emerges, the man concedes that there are no good excuses for the chaos their secrecy caused. The man in white admits that while they understand some of the enemy's traits, their tactics remain a dangerous mystery. Shizuya listens silently, absorbing the limited intelligence the SEAM Group has managed to gather. After a moment of contemplation, the changing room door slides open. Shizuya emerges in a fresh outfit, questioning the meaning behind the Oathkeeper title he was given. The man explains it's a temporary task force created specifically to analyze the shadows. He concedes that this new force is still in its infancy and lacks Shizuya's impressive combat skills. Shizuya ignores the full suit, opting to wear the provided coat his own way. The man in white casually dismisses his fashion choice, more interested in getting answers. He demands an explanation for Shizuya's powers, needing a story to tell the suspicious military. Shizuya deflects, claiming ignorance but confirming his powers are undeniably linked to the game, Azure Land. He presents his transformed hand, explaining how it came to be. Shizuya theorizes the change occurred when he touched a shadow's energy core, which he calls a signal. The man in white cheerfully adopts the new term, clarifying it must be the power source for shadow armor. He inspects the arm, fascinated by a power that is completely alien to their own technology. With a subtle motion, the man discreetly activates a device hidden on his wrist. A flicker of annoyance crosses his face as he seemingly receives an update. Announcing he has to deal with some stubborn old folks, he turns to leave for the meeting. He promises to continue their conversation later, leaving Shizuya with a final knowing look. In a flash of recognition, Shizuya finally puts a name to the familiar face, William Seam. He recalls seeing William on a magazine cover, identified as the powerful heir to global conglomerates. Shizuya recalls William's reputation as a prodigy who took control of the Seam Group with unmatched skill. He realizes William, as the head of the company that created Azure Land, is a key figure in this crisis. He understands that the cunning heir is a dangerous and calculating individual who cannot be trusted for a moment. The scene shifts to a tactical meeting, where a map reveals the global scale of the shadow invasion, with Heisei as the primary target. An analyst explains the shadows use diversionary attacks worldwide to spread humanity's defenses thin. Their true strategy was to concentrate their main force and strike Heisei at its most vulnerable point. In response, the military established sniper positions along the Takano River, taking advantage of the open terrain. This strategic placement has successfully halted the enemy's advance, containing them to the river's eastern bank. An officer briefs the command staff, confirming the enemy's main force has pulled back, marking the failure of their initial assault. In the command center, Shizuya and William listen as the military outlines its plan to reinforce defenses and monitor the shadows. William interrupts the military briefing, raising a hand to get everyone's attention. The stern-faced CEO grants him permission to speak, demanding to know what he wants. With a sly smile, William assures them it's nothing serious before posing a provocative question. He stuns the room by asking the military commanders if they have the ability to resurrect. Answering his own question, he reveals that while humans can't come back, the shadows most certainly can. He pulls up a holographic display, preparing to explain the analysis of captured enemy units. An analyst presents a diagram of a shadow's body, noting its outer armor is nearly impervious to conventional weapons. The presentation then reveals a glowing energy circuit within, identified as the creature's true core. William glances at Shizuya with a knowing smirk, officially naming this core the Signal. He explains that using the Signal, shadows can absorb matter to instantly repair any damage to their armor. He elaborates that as long as the Signal remains, a shadow can completely regenerate its body. A military commander dismisses his research, demanding they focus on immediate battlefield strategies. Shizuya prepares to interject, intending to translate William's theory into practical terms for the soldiers. He states that since shadows aren't human, the conventional rules and tactics of war simply do not apply. The CEO grapples with this new reality, understanding that they are fighting an enemy that cannot be truly killed. William emphasizes that in a war of attrition against an immortal foe, humanity is guaranteed to lose. He passionately argues for a swift, decisive strike, insisting that any delay only benefits the enemy. Shizuya grows suspicious, sensing a hidden motive behind William's eagerness to send the military into battle. He recognizes the invasion's pattern, seeing it as a direct copy of the Gloom Tower raid from Azure Land. The lines blur as he contemplates the terrifying similarities between the game's war and the real-world conflict. He recalls the fundamental rule of the game: defeating endless grunts is a pointless distraction. Victory only comes from taking down the dungeon's final boss, a feat his team once accomplished in record time. Applying this game logic, he gazes at the city map, trying to predict the Shadow's next strategic move. A sudden, chilling realization dawns on him as he connects the dots between the game and reality. William seizes the moment, proposing they abandon defense and instead hunt down the Shadow's respawn points. The military leaders are stunned into silence, contemplating the radical shift from a defensive to an offensive war. A cunning smirk plays on William's lips, confident he has manipulated them into his desired course of action. Shizuya interrupts, pointing to a specific building on the map, having identified the enemy's true objective. He demands to know what the building is, his intense focus catching William's attention. A female officer identifies the location as the headquarters of the Ritzen IT company, puzzled by his sudden interest. His eyes widen as he processes the name Ritzen, a vital piece of the puzzle. He connects the dots, realizing the Ritzen HQ is the real-world counterpart to the game's infamous Gloom Tower. The chilling implication dawns on him. The president of Ritzen must be the final boss of the Gloom Tower raid. His mind flashes back to the game's ultimate raid boss, the fearsome entity known as the Thunder Demon. Snapping back to reality, he urgently demands a status report on the Ritzen building's defenses. William quickly moves to silence him, grabbing his shoulder to stop his frantic outburst. With surprising force, William shoves him back, pinning him against a surface with an aggressive move. Leaning in close, William glares at him, demanding he quiet down immediately. The CEO calmly observes the confrontation, interpreting their proposal as a call to take the offensive. Taking a thoughtful sip, the CEO announces their radical suggestion will be given serious consideration. With the meeting adjourned, the CEO and his staff file out of the room. Later, Shizuya confronts William on the platform, demanding to know why he held back crucial information. He points out the flaw in William's plan, a focus on attack with no mention of defending the true target. William sighs, conceding that he should have spoken with Shizuya before the meeting. He explains that the military wouldn't have believed the connection between the game and reality anyway. William justifies his secrecy, arguing that not everyone needs to know the full picture. Shizuya presses the issue, questioning who will defend the Ritzen building if not the army. A sly, knowing smirk spreads across William's face, hinting at a hidden ace. He cryptically challenges Shizuya's assumption that the army is their only option. Outside, 3 military helicopters sit ready on their launch pads, revealing William has other assets in play. A close-up reveals the insignia of this new force, a stylized K on their armor. A squad of uniquely designed warriors strides confidently across the helipad, their presence formidable. From a high vantage point, Shizuya and William observe the elite unit assembling below. Shizuya questions William about the identity of the mysterious group. William confirms this is the Oathkeeper unit, his face now hidden behind a sinister mask. He reveals this elite squad is the trump card specifically assigned to defend the Ritzen building. Shizuya voices his doubt, but William places a reassuring hand on his shoulder, dismissing his concern. William claims their power is equivalent to Shizuya's, who immediately questions if they also wield the power of the signal. He offers to introduce them, yet his gaze lingers on Shizuya, admitting his unique power is far more fascinating. Shizuya remains silent, his intense gaze revealing a mind racing with suspicion and calculation. William introduces Shizuya to the squad, formally welcoming him as a fellow Oathkeeper. Shizuya is stunned to see their gear is a perfect real-world replication of items from the game. The eclectic group of warriors greets them, looking like a team of game protagonists assembled for battle. From his high vantage point, William coolly demands a status report on their last mission. A robed member confirms the mission was accomplished, but hints at a minor complication along the way. William's sharp gaze narrows, demanding clarification on the trouble they encountered. The member downplays the incident, but a red-haired warrior beside him scoffs in annoyance. He reveals their vice captain's carelessness led to early detection, though they fortunately avoided any casualties. The red-haired vice captain explodes with anger, furious at his teammate for exposing his mistake. The robed member calmly retorts that he merely stated the facts, leaving the final judgment to their boss. William bellows, instantly silencing the bickering squad members. He calmly dismisses the team, telling them to go and rest after their mission. With his mask on, he delivers a chilling warning to the vice captain, reminding him that he is expendable. The furious vice captain storms off, muttering threats under his breath. As the eclectic team disperses, William laments the challenges of leadership. A masked, white-haired warrior approaches, creating a tense standoff with Shizuya. The two stand back to back, a silent comparison of their power and presence. The swordsman follows William, leaving Shizuya to silently observe the strange group. Shizuya's attention is drawn to another member carrying a bizarre, ship's wheel-like weapon. He calls out to the warrior, who turns around, revealing a surprisingly familiar face. The warrior removes his mask with a smug grin, questioning if Shizuya recognizes his face. Shizuya's eyes widen in shock as he recognizes the man as his old acquaintance, Meiji. Meiji cheerfully greets him, casually asking what brings him to a place like this. With a slight smirk, Shizuya explains that their boss, William, was the one who brought him here. Meiji wonders aloud if William has taken a special interest in him, a thought Shizuya doesn't entirely disagree with. Shizuya quickly changes the subject, turning the interrogation back on his old friend. He demands to know why Meiji is working with such a questionable group of individuals. Meiji agrees it's a long story and suggests they find a more private place to talk. The scene shifts to a repurposed sports bar, its neon signs glowing under military guard. Inside, the two sit down at a table, ready to finally exchange their stories. Meiji explains he was nearly killed by a shadow before William saved him and recruited him as a player. Shizuya observes his friend, sensing that his new life as an Oathkeeper is far from ideal. With a weary smile, Meiji admits that his situation has become incredibly complicated. He chugs his drink, finding a brief moment of satisfaction amidst the turmoil. Meiji reveals he was promoted to captain after the previous one's recklessness led to casualties, making him a target. Shizuya cuts to the chase, demanding to know how the other members awakened their abilities. Meiji reveals a dark secret. Their powers weren't awakened but implanted using Seam Group's high-level technology. He clenches a glowing fist, explaining their powers are limited and can only be recharged at Seam facilities. Changing the subject, Meiji assumes William has already filled Shizuya in on the critical details. Their conversation is interrupted by the furious vice captain, who challenges Meiji for bringing an outsider into their private bar. Meiji calmly tries to defuse the situation, explaining that Shizuya is a guest of their boss. The furious vice captain threatens to take them both down, accusing Meiji of using William's name as a shield. He glares at Shizuya, paranoid that the newcomer is after his coveted vice captain position. Meiji slams his hand on the table, his patience finally snapping. He leaps to his feet, angrily reminding the vice captain not to question their leader's decisions. A sharp footstep signals the arrival of another figure, drawing attention away from the argument. A masked female warrior enters the bar, asking if the two hotheads are brawling again. Her companion simply points, directing her gaze toward the escalating confrontation. From across the room, William and his masked swordsman observe the unfolding drama. The vice captain grabs Meiji's coat, smugly challenging the support-type healer to a fight he can't win. The vice captain shoves Meiji, who deflects a projectile as Shizuya prepares to intervene. Enraged, the vice captain unleashes a massive burst of fire from his fist, ready to escalate the fight. Shizuya swiftly pulls Meiji to safety, silently questioning how such a reckless fool has managed to survive. From across the room, William shouts an order, his voice cutting through the tension to halt the brawl. Meiji reminds the vice captain that using their powers inside a military base is strictly forbidden. The vice captain turns to William, trying to justify his actions by accusing Shizuya of being a spy. William steps forward, placing a protective hand on Shizuya and declaring him a friend. With a cold glare, William warns the vice captain never to make such an accusation again. His commanding presence overwhelms the vice captain, who immediately backs down in submission. William calmly apologizes for his subordinate's lack of discipline and asks if Shizuya is unharmed. Meiji wipes his brow, admitting he's glad William intervened before Shizuya was forced to throw a punch. Shizuya questions the source of the vice captain's immediate and intense hostility towards a stranger. His friend explains the man is deeply insecure, terrified of losing his rank and becoming useless to the team. Meiji resolves that he can't let the vice captain's attitude jeopardize their next critical mission. William smoothly dismisses the issue, framing the vice captain's hot-headedness as youthful passion that will prove useful. With a slight smirk, Shizuya seems to accept William's manipulative explanation. William places a hand on his shoulder, informing him that his presence is required for their next operation. Meiji enthusiastically agrees, confessing he wouldn't feel confident without Shizuya's power backing them up. Shizuya gets straight to the point, demanding to know the details of this new mission. Meiji reveals their objective is to secure a Ritzen executive, reminding him of the building's proximity to the Gloom Tower. Meiji warns that while their main attack will suppress the shadows, they must be wary of elite monsters, just like in their old Gloom Tower raids. He adds that this time is different, as William himself is joining them on the ground. Elsewhere, the military CEO confirms with his aide that their own forces are fully prepared for deployment. The aide expresses her suspicion, noting that William is gathering all the Oathkeepers for a clandestine operation. The CEO slams his cup down, accusing William of using the military as a distraction for his own schemes. His aide confirms the army has been ordered to hold back and closely monitor the seam group's every move. With the operation set to begin in 2 hours, the CEO prepares to uncover William's true intentions. On a rooftop overlooking the ruined city, William briefs the team on their stealth approach through underground tunnels. A scout confirms over comms that their entry point into the subway system is now secure. William leads the assembled Oathkeepers, giving the final command to move out into the dark tunnels below. The hot-headed vice captain seethes, questioning why Shizuya is allowed on their mission. Another Oathkeeper reminds his comrade to trust their boss's judgment and simply follow orders. A female warrior advises him to leave Shizuya alone, warning him not to drag the team into his personal conflicts. The vice captain glares resentfully, admitting only William's protection is keeping Shizuya safe from him. Elsewhere, an older subordinate asks his blonde superior if he should discipline the insubordinate vice captain. The superior dismisses the idea, focused on the more critical aspects of their current operation. Meanwhile, the silent, white-haired swordsman's mask glows with a single ominous red light. Meiji notices Shizuya's distant expression, but Shizuya quickly brushes off his concern. Shizuya reflects on the team's dynamics, keenly aware of his status as an outsider. The Oathkeepers arrive at the Ritzen building, preparing to face the shadows head-on. A commander briefs the Oathkeepers, stressing that their mission is to locate the target, not just fight enemies. He tasks Shizuya and the older warrior, Kakitsubata, with covering the rear. Shizuya confidently accepts the assignment with a knowing smirk. The older warrior accepts with determination, vowing to handle his part. The team moves out, stepping through a bright doorway to begin their infiltration. Shizuya internally assesses his strength, confident that his power is enough for the initial encounters. He resolves to keep the true nature of his sinal-powered arm a secret to avoid complications with the team. Outside, shadows patrol the ruined cityscape, with a lookout perched high on a crumbling wall. A formidable shadow's glowing eyes narrow, sensing the team's approach. The giant shadow looms over the subway entrance, having already spotted Shizuya and his partner below. Kakitsubata senses the ambush, instantly ordering the team into a defensive formation. A colossal shadow materializes, unleashing a devastating energy attack that threatens to overwhelm them. The veteran warrior quickly assigns roles, directing his team to hold the line while others break the enemy perimeter. The diverse squad of Oathkeepers confirms their orders, each member prepared for their part in the battle. A spiky-haired warrior named Nokia accepts the challenge, his arm crackling with raw power. He lunges forward, channeling his fury into a blazing punch aimed squarely at a hooded shadow. His fist connects in a brilliant flash of light, the sheer force of the blow staggering the creature. Without hesitation, Nokia follows up with another devastating energy-infused strike. Kakitsubata explains to Shizuya that while Nokia is a good person, he becomes a different beast in a fight. Nokia successfully restrains the large shadow, as his comrades call for Yuki to provide crucial support. The warrior named Yuki leaps onto the shadow's back, confirming she is in position to strike. Nokia reports the enemy has been eliminated as the creature dissolves into digital fragments. Shizuya compliments Kakitsubata, surprised by how much his command skills have improved. The veteran humbly credits his growth to Shizuya's influence, admitting he still has much to learn. Shizuya reminds him that as captain, he has a duty to live up to the trust his team places in him. Kakitsubata accepts the weight of his responsibility with a look of grim determination. He explains that while Meiji's team can handle the grunts, an elite shadow would overwhelm them. A teammate screams a warning as a massive horned shadow materializes behind the unsuspecting Yuki. The elite monster unleashes a devastating attack, sending the agile warrior flying through the air. Looming over its fallen opponent, the shadow raises a glowing shield, preparing to deliver the final blow. The warrior is blown back by the sheer force of the shadow's attack, his comrades screaming a desperate warning. In a flash, the white-haired swordsman intervenes, unleashing a devastating slash of icy blue energy. Kakitsubata seizes the opening created by the swordsman, ordering his team to push forward. The team's advance is cut short as a mysterious red flare ignites in the sky, catching them by surprise. Kakitsubata's face drains of color as he recognizes the signal, identifying it as a noble reinforcement squad. A hooded figure from the new squad commands a tactical retreat, standing over a massive fiery blast zone. The Oathkeepers can only watch as the new arrivals engage a colossal enemy with overwhelming power. Furious at being upstaged, the hot-headed vice captain glares, determined to take down the target himself. He channels his rage, engulfing his body in flames as he prepares to unleash his ultimate attack. With a defiant roar, the vice captain launches a massive torrent of fire, desperate to prove his own strength. Meiji watches in fury, questioning the vice captain's suicidal recklessness. The vice captain's fiery assault engulfs the battlefield in a massive, uncontrolled explosion. His attack collides with the noble's power, creating a devastating shockwave of energy. The vice captain stares in disbelief as his ultimate move proves completely ineffective. With glowing red eyes, Shizuya dodges a stray energy wave as Meiji swings his weapon into the fray. The noble warrior effortlessly counters, sending the vice captain flying back with a single, powerful blow. A brilliant beam of blue energy slices through the vice captain's flames, completely overwhelming his attack. Meiji rushes to his downed comrade's side, but the vice captain angrily pushes away his concern. Shizuya takes command, pushing his teammates back and telling them to retreat while he handles the threat. A confident smirk spreads across his face as he declares that an enemy of this caliber is no match for him. Shizuya summons a battle standard, channeling its power into his glowing blue sword. He unleashes a devastating chaos slash, a wide arc of energy that tears across the battlefield. The attack instantly disintegrates a robed shadow, leaving only fading digital remnants behind. Meanwhile, inside the Ritzen building, the rest of the team observes the battle from a higher floor. William gets a status update as Meiji tends to an injured teammate with his healing abilities. Their brief respite is shattered as a massive spiked mace crashes through the window, signaling a new assault. The gray-haired warrior's eyes widen in alarm, recognizing the immediate threat to his team. A brawny warrior named Rado intercepts the weapon, catching the massive spiked ball with his bare hands. Meiji screams his comrade's name, rushing to provide support in the sudden ambush. With a look of fierce determination, Meiji unleashes his own green energy, preparing to join the fight. Meiji uses his unique weapon to rocket them both away from the window, saving Rado from the immediate danger. Outside, a colossal armored golem looms, the source of the devastating attack. The hulking creature stands menacingly, its armored form exuding raw power. A close-up reveals its devastating spiked mace, ready to swing again. The team stares in shock as they identify the massive creature as a golem. Raito notes this is unusual, as guard golems shouldn't be capable of independent attacks. Shizuya listens intently, understanding that something else must be controlling the golem. The blonde superior identifies the true threat, pointing out a special type of noble is at play. He names the enemy class a disturber. This type of noble has no combat ability, but can hijack and weaponize normally passive construction golems. He recalls a game mechanic where players could use rare jewels to equip golems as powerful armor. This exploit allowed a disturber to possess the golem, turning it into a customized weapon. Shizuya realizes the enemy is using a rare T-jewel, confirming they're facing a high-level threat. The team deduces that this means at least one elite shadow squad is operating in the area. Before they can react, the golem's massive spiked mace hurtles towards them once more. Raito screams a desperate warning, telling his comrades to take cover immediately. The weapon smashes into the ground, the sheer force of the impact sending the warriors flying. Shizuya pushes his teammate back, declaring he will hold the line to cover their retreat. He activates a defensive stance, summoning sharp crystalline structures from the ground around him. Bracing himself, Shizuya raises a massive ice shield to block the golem's devastating blow. Kakitsubara yells for the team to fall back, knowing Shizuya's defense is about to break. With his allies safely away, Shizuya smirks, finally free to unleash his full power. The golem's mace shatters the ice shield, overwhelming Shizuya's initial defense. He's thrown back by the immense force, but remains composed amidst the chaos. The colossal golem winds up for another devastating swing, determined to finish him off. Shizuya calmly prepares a counter, summoning a powerful lamp arrow from his weapon. As the spiked mace hurtles towards him, Shizuya takes aim with pinpoint accuracy. His energy arrow collides with the mace, creating a massive explosion of light and force. The golem is knocked off balance, its powerful attack completely neutralized by the arrow. The arrow pierces through the attack, continuing on its path toward an unseen target. Shizuya strikes a defensive pose, effortlessly surfing on a wave of crystalline energy. His concerned teammates call for a retreat, warning of an approaching night shadow. Their escape is cut short as a massive armored foot smashes down, confirming they're trapped. The massive horned night shadow reveals itself, its powerful form radiating menace. Looming over the team, the colossal night shadow leaves them no choice but to make their stand. Shizuya takes command, calling on Meiji to provide crucial support for the coming battle. The blonde commander rallies the rest of the squad, ordering them to provide backup. The fiery vice captain smirks maliciously, twisting the order into an excuse to unleash his own brand of support. He unleashes a massive, uncontrolled torrent of fire, intending to obliterate everything in his path. Amidst the fiery chaos, a pair of feet land firmly, untouched by the raging inferno. Amidst the vice captain's inferno, Shizuya stands completely unfazed, a confident smirk on his face. Meiji physically restrains the reckless vice captain, whose wild attacks are endangering everyone. Kakitsubata furiously confronts the vice captain, warning him to drop his personal grudge before he jeopardizes the entire team. The team watches in awe as Shizuya stands alone, ready to face the colossal Night Shadow to protect them all. The Night Shadow raises its massive mace, preparing to crush Shizuya with a single overwhelming blow. Shizuya nimbly evades the attack, the sheer destructive power of the impact shattering the ground behind him. Meiji casts a haste spell from a safe distance, granting Shizuya a crucial speed boost for the fight. Empowered by the buff, Shizuya unleashes a brilliant pillar of energy, meeting the Night Shadow's power head-on. His attack manifests as a volley of sharp energy projectiles, striking their target with explosive force. He gracefully rides a wave of his own energy, effortlessly snatching a rare fragment of a magic tome from the air. He unleashes a massive fiery projectile from his weapon, a skill identified as Fireball. The colossal Night Shadow reels in confusion, caught completely off guard by the unexpected attack. Undeterred, the massive creature looms over Shizuya, ready to bring its mace down with crushing force. Shizuya activates a mana boost, knowing he's at the perfect distance to exploit the disturber's only weakness. He fires a precise energy beam, striking the cross on its face, but reveals this is merely a decoy. The powerful impact shatters the creature's helmet, the force of the blow causing a massive explosion. Unable to withstand the shock, the golem's headgear completely disintegrates into fragments. Beneath the shattered armor, a glowing, vulnerable core is finally exposed. Shizuya stands silhouetted against the blast, confirming he has revealed the disturber's true weak point. With cold precision, he prepares a technical shot, aiming a final decisive blast at the exposed core. Shizuya's final shot hits its mark, causing a massive, blinding explosion that engulfs the golem's core. The force of the blast washes over him, but he stands firm, having unleashed the decisive blow. He coolly assesses the situation, noting that this reality is even easier to conquer than the game he once knew. He wonders if the ease of victory is because he has surpassed even his own legendary in-game power. His teammates can only stare in utter disbelief, shocked that he defeated the colossal enemy single-handedly. Meiji and the others cheer from below as Shizuya stands atop the fallen golem, ready to claim his prize. He interacts with the system interface, unlocking a new golem skill and initiating a weapon fusion. His teammates watch from a distance, completely baffled by what Shizuya is doing on the creature's remains. He casually explains he's just collecting the loot, ignoring his team's frantic warnings to get away from the potential danger. A thoughtful expression crosses his face as he considers how the newly acquired items could be used to empower his friends. A female warrior casually drapes her arm over a bewildered teammate, her intentions unclear. The blonde commander dispatches his older subordinate Saito to check on Kakitsubata's squad. In a flashback, Meiji begins to reveal the dark truth behind how the Oathkeepers really got their powers. He explains to Shizuya that the entire conspiracy began on the fateful day the Shadows first invaded. The Seam group quickly realized there was a profound connection between the invaders and the world of Azure Land. This led to the creation of Project Prometheus, a joint military operation to study live shadows. Scientists attempted to grant humans powers by directly transplanting the energy circuits from captured shadows. The initial experiments were a catastrophic failure, with every human subject dying, forcing them to test on resilient animals instead. They finally found success by first transplanting a stable circuit into a Galapagos tortoise, then using it as a biological filter for a human host. This pivotal creature, the key to their success, became known to humanity as the priest. Meiji reveals the transplanted circuits are flawed, unlike the natural one Shizuya possesses. Shizuya internally questions the timeline, finding it hard to believe the Seam group achieved such a breakthrough so fast. Meiji admits he doesn't know the full story, cynically stating that in this new world, even being exploited is a blessing. When questioned about his own powers, Shizuya deflects, hiding the true nature of his omniscience ability. Meiji explains their gear is just a replica, unable to truly fuse with their powers the way Shizuya's does. He warns Shizuya that item fusion comes with a risk. The previous owner can track the item for a week. Meiji thoughtfully recalls the game mechanic known as hate stock, a system for tracking players. Meiji correctly guesses this tracking risk is why Shizuya sought the Seam Group's protection, a deal for a peaceful life. Meiji reveals the Seam Group's theory. The shadows are exploiting stolen game data from the Ritzen Group. Shizuya puts the pieces together, realizing the shadows are attacking Ritzen to destroy all evidence of the data leak. With their conversation concluded, Meiji takes a decisive step, ready to head back. Shizuya stops him with one final question, prompting Meiji to turn and listen. With a calculating look, Shizuya asks if the Seam Group is truly an organization he can trust with his life. Meiji laughs heartily, admitting that despite his fame in the game, he's just an ordinary guy in reality. He fondly explains that for a regular working man, the Seam Group represents the ultimate dream. Elsewhere, William and his men loom over the defeated vice captain, taunting him as he stirs. Kakitsubata furiously silences the vice captain, shaming him for his reckless and disgraceful actions during the mission. William cuts Kakitsubata off mid-sentence, silencing him to answer an important phone call. A sinister smile plays on William's lips as he assures the caller their plan is on track to deliver an offering to the elder. The perspective shifts to a pair of binoculars, zeroing in on the Ritzen Group's headquarters from a distance. The blonde commander asks his subordinate for a status report on the Ritzen building. The scout reports the area is clear of threats, speculating the building is dark to appear abandoned. The commander presses for confirmation, wanting to be certain there is no immediate danger. Satisfied with the report, he gives the order for the entire team to advance on the Ritzen building. From a high-rise window, a mysterious figure deploys miniature surveillance drones over the city. A red-haired woman smirks, having already detected the approaching Oathkeepers on her own watch. The team arrives at their destination, the imposing Ritzen building, marked with an LX logo. Inside, they discover the lobby has been intentionally split into two distinct pathways. The commander divides his forces, ordering them to sweep the 40-story building and regroup at the top. One squad cautiously clears the 5th floor, reporting no signs of trouble as they continue their search. The team continues their ascent, reaching the 20th floor of the deserted building. The squad leader reports the floor is clear, his expression hardening as he orders them to press onward. An impatient, red-haired warrior approaches his captain, questioning the slow, methodical search. He complains about the tedious floor-by-floor sweep, suggesting they just rush to the top floor. The captain challenges him to make that reckless report himself, refusing to lie about their thoroughness. Stunned by the rebuke, the hot-headed warrior's face contorts with frustration. The captain's eyes narrow, his patience clearly wearing thin with his subordinate's insubordination. The warrior accuses his captain of using the boss's authority, prompting a tense confrontation. Suddenly, a strange electrical noise fills the room, drawing their attention to a nearby device. The captain's face pales as he recognizes the sound of a jamming device, realizing they've walked right into a trap. Meanwhile, Shizuya's team continues their sweep, arriving on the 26th floor. Suddenly, one of the warriors gestures for silence, his enhanced senses picking up a faint sound. The blonde commander asks for a report, but Shizuya answers first, claiming he heard something next door. His skeptical teammates exchange glances, insisting they didn't hear a thing. Shizuya confidently moves forward, certain he recognized the voice of his friend Meiji. The commander finds this illogical, as they should all be able to hear him if he's that close. Shizuya inspects the wall, noting how thin it is and deducing it must be a construction flaw. His sharp eyes narrow with suspicion, sensing there's more to this than a simple architectural error. Looking up, he observes the ceiling is half a meter shorter than it should be in a normal office building. He confirms his theory in the stairwell, realizing the building's layout is designed to hide a secret space. Shizuya confirms his deduction to the commander, explaining the existence of a hidden space. Realizing the implications, the commander urgently orders his subordinate to contact the other squad. The subordinate frantically reports back that their communications are jammed, leaving them completely isolated. With their trap confirmed, the commander yells for his team to immediately fall back. Before they can escape, the floor gives way beneath them, plunging them into the hidden chamber. From the ceiling, a sprinkler system activates, flooding the room with a thick white vapor. Shizuya instantly identifies the substance as sleeping gas, covering his mouth to avoid breathing it in. He struggles against the effects, realizing he's been caught in a well-laid ambush. A mysterious woman emerges from the smoke, commanding her forces to take the fallen warriors. The perspective shifts to a bright, clinical light as a voice asks a captive if they have finally woken up. Shizuya awakens tied to a chair, interrogated by a red-haired woman demanding to know his purpose. Unfazed by his predicament, he sarcastically questions his captor's idea of hospitality. His defiant attitude catches the woman completely off guard. She leans in with a smug grin, demanding he explain the secret of his right hand. Her expression turns fierce as she warns him not to underestimate her, boasting of her own connections to the shadows. The interrogation is abruptly interrupted as a man enters, ordering Vice President Ayakawa to stand down. The blonde commander and his subordinate reveal the gravity of the situation. She has captured William, the Seam Group's heir. Ayakawa scoffs at their concern, questioning their competence and hinting at a hidden agenda behind their mission. The commander's subordinate furiously confronts her, but she fires back, escalating the tense argument. With a final threat, Ayakawa storms out of the room, leaving the man to sigh in exasperation. The man identifies the captive as Genoza, Ritsun's president, deducing Ayakawa's ambush was a rogue operation. The blonde commander clears the room to speak privately with Shizuya, asking if their plan seems suspicious. Now freed, Shizuya walks through the damaged building, observing how the new world has made people dangerously ambitious. He thanks the subordinate who freed him and asks for a favor, to look up an old friend from the game. Shizuya provides the name Hitokane Hitomi, which causes the subordinate to freeze in shock. The man panics, flatly refusing the request before turning and fleeing down the hallway. Shizuya is left standing in confusion as he calls out for the man to wait. Ayakawa reappears, questioning his interest in Hitomi and wondering if the name is some kind of taboo. He calmly explains his only motive is to ensure the safety of an old friend from the game. Ayakawa's eyes widen in recognition, realizing he is the legendary Shizuya Kakitsubata and questioning his risky devotion. Ayakawa hands him a keycard, revealing Hitomi's location on the 3rd floor of the Ritzen building. She challenges him to satisfy his own curiosity by confronting Hitomi directly. Shizuya takes the elevator, his destination now set. He arrives on the floor, his mind racing with suspicion about this convenient reunion. He recalls how different Hitomi was in real life compared to her fierce in-game persona. With a sense of unease, he knocks on the door, hoping to finally get some answers. The door opens and he comes face to face with a surprised Hitomi. She greets him warmly from her wheelchair, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to his tension. She invites him inside her spacious apartment, offering him his usual drink. While pouring tea, she casually asks if her father was the one who sent him. Shizuya takes a sip, connecting the dots that the fiery Vice President Ayakawa is the daughter of Ritsun's president. He observes her discomfort, sensing her family is a difficult subject she'd rather not discuss. Hitomi looks away wistfully, admitting it's a painful memory she's only recently begun to process. She begins to recount her past, explaining she was once a wild tomboy who loved boxing. A flashback shows her childhood, where her father's support for her hobbies caused constant fights with her mother. She reveals the secret boxing lessons led to the accident that left her paralyzed and hopeless in a hospital bed. The aftermath was even more tragic, as the guilt and arguments drove her mother to a desperate end. Out of guilt, she changed her surname, reflecting on how a series of blameless choices led to tragedy. She found solace in Azurland, and her devoted father bought the entire Ritzen company just for her. Hitomi reveals her father brought her here a year ago with the promise of a cure, but she's been a prisoner ever since. Shizuya listens to Hitomi's story, connecting her tragic past to the mysterious Gloom Tower. He now understands the building's intense security is all meant to protect her. While sipping his tea, he questions how a CEO could also be a legendary game boss. A startling realization hits him. Her father may have been preparing for the invasion a full year ago. His mind flashes back to the game's epic battlefield, the infamous Gloom Tower. The story shifts to a new character, the Thunder Demon Hanpa, a merchant driven by ambition. To expand her influence, she used her connections with nobles to gain information and resources. As her business empire grew, she tragically began to neglect her own family. She only realized her mistake when her young daughter was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Desperate to make amends, she hired a magician to bring some happiness to her daughter's final days. She recalls the magician's sinister smile, realizing he was not what he seemed. The magician's true form was revealed to be a terrifying red-eyed demon. He opened a gate, unleashing a demonic horde that ravaged the land and its people. Shizuya theorizes the Shadow's leader isn't human, and that her father is their next target. He urgently warns a stunned Hitomi that her father is in grave danger. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light engulfs the room, signaling an imminent attack. Outside, a squad of armored shadows begins to breach the building's defenses. A powerful shadow smashes through the wall, its fist crackling with destructive energy. With no time to waste, Shizuya grabs Hitomi's wheelchair, preparing for a desperate escape. The scene shifts to two men in a tense meeting, one of whom is Hitomi's father. The blonde man, William, presents a briefcase, demanding Genoza honor their deal for the powerful circuit inside. He plays his trump card, reminding Genoza that this circuit is the only way to heal his daughter's legs. Unmoved, Genoza calmly explains that the Ritzen company represents his entire life's work. He points to a security feed showing shadows attacking his employees, questioning William's convenient timing. Cornered, William delivers an ultimatum, warning Genoza that this is his final chance to sell the company. Genoza calls his bluff, questioning why he's so desperate to acquire a company he claims is about to be worthless. With a final, chilling threat, William turns to leave, telling Genoza to enjoy his company's demise. As William reaches for the door, his escape seems all but certain. But a sudden tremor stops him in his tracks, his confident smirk replaced with shock. A colossal mechanical arm erupts from behind, seizing the stunned William and lifting him effortlessly into the air. Genoza retrieves the briefcase, coldly informing the captive William that he only makes deals that serve his own interests. Holding the case, Genoza is lifted into the air by a glowing platform, revealing his own hidden power. He looks down on the captured man, taunting him to struggle all he wants. A strange blue energy ring materializes, signaling the activation of a restraining device. William grits his teeth as a device on his collar activates, sending a jolt of pain through him. He cries out in agony, desperately calling for his subordinates by name. Responding to his call, Saito and another warrior burst through the doors to rescue their commander. The two subordinates unleash a powerful combined attack, striking the mechanical arm holding their leader. The massive mechanical construct shatters into a pile of rubble on the floor. His rescuers look around in confusion, realizing their target Genoza has vanished from the room. Enraged by his humiliation, William vows to hunt down Genoza at all costs. As they flee, his subordinate questions saving the employees, but is told to leave them since their boss did. Elsewhere, panicked Ritzen employees desperately scramble to escape in a crowded elevator. Their escape is cut short as a powerful armored shadow materializes before them. The creature unleashes a devastating energy cannon, overwhelming the helpless workers. Shizuya arrives with Hitomi, calmly offering to lead the terrified survivors to safety. The employees question his ability to save them all, realizing their own boss has abandoned them. Shizuya radios William, urgently requesting backup to help evacuate the trapped employees. William coldly dismisses the request, declaring they have no obligation to save people their own leader abandoned. He tells Shizuya to save himself and meet at the garage, leaving him and the survivors to their fate. Betrayal stings the employees, who realize their boss abandoned not just them but his own daughter too. Terrified, Hitomi fears being dragged down with her father, yet selflessly tells Shizuya to save the others. In a tense split screen, Shizuya requests an alliance, while William savors the moment he finally has the upper hand. In a separate location, Genoza confidently approaches Ayakawa, announcing his success in retrieving the circuit. She confirms his suspicions, explaining their counter-hack revealed the Seam Group's acquisition was a bluff to steal their data. She reveals the Seam Group's ultimate goal, to install game data into the circuit, transferring legendary player powers into reality. Genoza is visibly shaken, grappling with the incredible implication of bringing the power of top game accounts into the real world. Ayakawa stands, explaining the Seam Group's experiments have been failing from insufficient data, making Ritzen's assets invaluable. Genoza finally understands William's terrifying ambition, to harness the power of top players and secure world domination for the Seam Group. His fear turns to triumphant relief, believing he has now secured the safety of both Hitomi and his entire company. Ayakawa smirks, asking Genoza for the next step now that their plan has succeeded. He declares their first priority is to empower Hitomi with the circuit, making her untouchable. As Genoza reaches for the case, Ayakawa stops him, insisting on inspecting the circuit herself. Genoza looks surprised, questioning if she doubts the authenticity of the circuit William brought. A sly, confident smile spreads across Ayakawa's face, hinting at a hidden agenda. She suddenly snatches the briefcase and makes a run for it, leaving Genoza in shock. Jinoza roars in outrage, demanding to know the meaning of her sudden betrayal. Ayakawa glances back with contempt, questioning why his daughter should reap the rewards of her efforts. Elsewhere, a squad of robotic soldiers activates, their glowing chests signaling they are ready for combat. A loyal subordinate of Jinoza rallies the remaining employees, urging them to escape through the garage stairs. The subordinate confirms the escape route is clear, his expression a mix of panic and resolve. In a flashback, William watches Shizuya's team on a monitor, tracking their every move through the building. Hitomi appears, reminding William she upheld her end of their bargain and now expects him to fulfill his. She begins to lead him away, promising to reveal the location of a secret room. William questions her indifference, hinting that his mission is directly related to her father. She coldly distances herself from her father's actions, claiming his business is not her concern. Back in the present, Jinoza furiously orders Ayakawa to return the device she stole. She defiantly places the circuit on a console, questioning if he still believes he holds any power over her. The device activates, initiating an installation sequence that floods a screen with glowing code. Ayakawa grins maniacally, convinced this power will allow her to become the new unrivaled keeper. Her moment of triumph is cut short as the system flashes an error message. Installation failed. Jinoza reveals his countermove, calmly explaining he already removed the crucial data from the device. She stares in disbelief, realizing he had been suspicious of her loyalty for years. He coldly reminds her of her own betrayal, declaring that his actions have simply evened the score. With the conversation over, Jinoza reaches for the pistol at his side, ready to end the standoff. But Ayakawa is faster, firing wildly as Jinoza dives through a glass partition to escape. Suddenly, two powerful armored figures emerge, their glowing eyes fixed on the unfolding chaos. Jinoza looks back in horror, realizing she has unleashed her own private army on him. Cornered on a ledge, he makes a final offer to spare her, but she scoffs at his chances of survival. Before he can react, a massive blast erupts from behind him, leaving Ayakawa stunned by the sudden turn of events. A mysterious blue warrior shatters the glass, unleashing a fiery sword strike against Ayakawa's forces. The flaming blade pierces one of Ayakawa's soldiers, neutralizing it instantly as she looks on in shock. As the defeated soldier crashes to the floor, Jinoza watches the unexpected turn of events with disbelief. Seizing the moment, Jinoza turns his rage on the remaining armored figure, opening fire with his pistol. He unloads his weapon, desperately trying to fight back against the imposing mechanical soldiers. His bullets spark uselessly against the soldier's impenetrable armor, having no effect whatsoever. Jinoza's confidence shatters into terror as he scrambles backward, warning the advancing figure to stay away. The colossal soldier takes a deliberate, menacing step forward, its presence overwhelming the room. A glowing blue sigil appears on the floor, trapping the cornered Jinoza with the two imposing figures. The scene shifts, showing Jinoza peeking from behind a wall, angrily questioning someone's actions. The mysterious blue warrior, now revealed as an archer, confronts Ayakawa's remaining armored soldier. The archer aims skyward, drawing back a bow charged with brilliant golden energy. A powerful explosion rips through the floor above, showering Shizuya and Hitomi with debris. Shizuya peers through the newly formed hole, realizing the archer is signaling him from below. Downstairs, the other armored soldier lunges at Jinoza, swinging its heavy sword with lethal intent. Thrown to the ground, Jinoza fires his pistol in a frantic, last-ditch effort to defend himself. As the soldier disarms him, Jinoza seizes the opportunity to leap through the hole, escaping to the floor above. With a look of profound regret, Jinoza steels himself, knowing he must forge ahead without his daughter. The soldier's powerful mana attack strikes empty air, its target having already vanished from sight. The two elite shadow warriors, an archer and a soldier, stand ready, their impressive levels displayed. A new warrior with a ship's wheel on his back joins the fray, facing off against Shizuya's team. Jinoza takes command, ordering the newcomer to distract the armored soldier while Shizuya handles the archer. The mage-like warrior accepts his role, conjuring golden chains to bind his target. With the soldier restrained, Shizuya vaults over the enemy, making a beeline for the archer. Shizuya gracefully flies through the air, his glowing blue blade poised to strike. Jinoza watches with bated breath, his hope resting on Shizuya's success. Meanwhile, the mage unleashes a relentless assault on the immobilized armored soldier. Shizuya lands with perfect timing, preparing to unleash his finishing move. He executes a devastating Leon slash, overwhelming the archer with a powerful energy strike. With the archer defeated, the mage stands protected by a shield, checking on his victorious ally. The mage smirks, boasting that this real-world battle is only a fraction of what they faced in-game. A voice from the doorway reveals Genoza's hiding spot, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. William strides into the room, flanked by Shizuya and Hitomi, stunning the defeated Genoza. Genoza's shock turns to pure joy at the sight of his daughter, Hitomi. He desperately reaches for her, presenting the data device and promising it will let her walk again. William and his subordinate watch the scene unfold, deciding to bide their time before making a move. Hitomi coldly rejects her father's offering, telling him to use the device himself. A stunned Genoza begs for a chance to atone for his past mistakes. She erupts in tearful rage, screaming that his gesture can't undo the tragedies of their family. Shizuya grimly observes the painful reunion, realizing they are all still prisoners of their pasts. The tense reunion is cut short by an urgent radio call. Shadows are swarming the underground garage. William panics, screaming into his radio that he's coming to rescue his subordinate. As William's group prepares to leave, a desperate Genoza calls out from the floor. With a grim look, Genoza reveals he knows a secret shortcut to the garage. A massive explosion blasts open a new path, creating the promised shortcut. In the garage, panicked employees flee through the newly created opening. The garage is a battlefield, with warriors desperately fighting off a horde of armored shadows. One of the soldiers unleashes a powerful fireball, incinerating an enemy combatant. Shizuya leaps into the fray, launching his own fiery assault to aid the overwhelmed fighters. A quick check of the floor plans reveals their primary escape route, Exit A, has been completely cut off. William takes charge, ordering his subordinates to create a diversion while he leads the main group to Exit B. The mage conjures a golden sanctuary shield, successfully blocking a powerful blow from an advancing shadow. But his subordinate frantically reports that their escape route is cut off, with more shadows blocking Exit B. Before he can react, the subordinate is struck down by a swift, lethal energy attack. William stares at his tablet in disbelief, questioning why the shadows are converging on their exact position. The tactical display confirms his fears, showing the enemy forces are homing in on their location with unnatural precision. Shizuya leaps back into the fight, unleashing a torrent of flames to hold back the relentless tide of shadows. He quickly deduces the archer's previous attack was a beacon, deliberately drawing the enemy horde to their location. William finally connects the dots, realizing the shadow's true target has been Genoza from the very beginning.